With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
After a contentious first round of the season at Watkins Glen, the doubleheader of GT3 action makes its way across the globe. We land in the land of the rising sun at the Fuji International Raceway, and we begin by rolling out the drivers for GT3 Fixed Competition. Hello everyone, welcome back to RaceSpotTV. Delighted to have your company as always. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside by the voice of the PRL, Joey Tebben. And Joey, Watkins Glen, I think, was contentious. We didn't see too much drama, fortunately, but it's always an interesting place. Fast-flowing, high speed to start off a championship. And now we make our way to equally high-speed track in some ways, but very different in its midfield.
Very, very different. A lot of drivers have experienced Fuji in the past couple of seasons. It's been kind of a mainstay, an open wheel competition, and a few other series on iRacing, but in the GT3s, I don't think we've ever run this specific layout of it with that high-speed turn 10. So that's going to be a little bit of an interesting dynamic there. It is a little bit of a downgrade track-wise, I'd say, from Watkins Glen down to Fuji. Both great tracks, though. Very long straight here, so the draft's going to be extremely important. And I'm sure once we get into the standings here in a matter of moments, there's going to be another big story that we have to talk about. When can iRacing finally win a race? It happened again last week. Certain win. It all fell apart.
I mean, you alluded to it. So a quick look at the championship standings, which again, with round one in the books, basically means they appear as they finished after Watkins Glen. And so John Jones did manage to sneak his way into victory lane. I think we're going to blame you, Joey Tebben, for cursing poor iRacing out of any chance of grabbing a win, because it's all your fault, always.
Well, if I remember correctly, the thing that undid his win was he went side by side with our old buddy Pete Mejia into the bus stop. They made contact. John Jones came through and said, "Thank you very much, I'll take that win." I have a feeling that might be the story of the season. We've got a big three that solidified themselves at Watkins Glen, but that could very well change in the next couple of weeks. Watkins Glen is a unique track where a lot of drivers have a lot of experience. Not a lot of drivers have that much experience here, so we could see somebody new at the top of the table.
And we do have some newer tracks coming up later this season as well. Quick look at the team championship, where as always it looks quite interesting, but early in the season, Vulture Motorsport South grabbing the initial advantage. Long way still to go. SRT Esports Green, SG Esports, and then Throttle Thursday, We Race Esports. That's your top five, although there are 4 teams tied on 60 points with just one round in the books, so expect plenty more fighting there. But we talk about championship pictures. I think one thing that's important for us to bring up, a story that we talked about last time out, Joey, is the fact that with Gary Brown so dominant on his way to a championship in 2023 Season 2, making his way up to the GT3 Sprint Series, there's a gaping void in the championship that someone's going to be looking to fill.
It's the power vacuum. I'm going to keep saying it, and we don't know who's going to fill the power vacuum just yet. John Jones was kind of the underdog last week. He just came to the PRL this season. He's doing a dual campaign in the Cup Series and in this series. He's at the top of the table right now, but there's about 50 other drivers signed up who want to take that from him for the rest of the year.
Well, as the cars roll underway for qualifying, already halfway through, let's thank those that make this coverage possible, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount using the Precision5 coupon code. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mechasim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mechasim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. And last but not least, Moradness, a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Qualifying at a track like this may not seem that important with its long main straight, but one thing we can guarantee is with that middle part of the lap being so twisty and tight at times, we may very well see breakaways. And at the front of the field, it's close between Ray Dominguez, who currently sits at provisional pole, and then Evan Smogor, who is just 400 off the pace. Couple of cars making their way in towards pit lane to grab a fresh set of boots, including Dominguez, who had a pretty impressive initial showing in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, and then it got a little bit more interesting.
It did get a little bit more interesting, not in the way he wanted, but still qualified P4 on debut, fell to 14th at the end of it all with an incident, but still a pretty strong showing in a new livery this week, and I believe a new car, if I'm remembering correctly. No, it was still the BMW last week, but it is a new paint scheme on that car. Evan Smoger trying to get back to form on your screen right now. He's going to bring it down pit lane. I'll bring you back to this in a couple of moments here. You got to remember on pit entry here, you got to follow that yellow, or that white line rather, the solid white line. You don't want to get a penalty in there, but Smoger's doing very well, trying to recover from last week.
One thing to note is, as Errol Urexoy jumps up to second in front of Smogor in his Porsche, is that drivers were allowed a free change of car because iRacing slightly adjusted the balance of performance to slightly decrease the performance of the Porsche that was so prevalent at Watkins Glen. But Joey, we still have a majority Porsche field, but it does seem a little bit more equal. Now, there is a few more manufacturers in the mix as well.
It is a majority still, but it's a little bit more of a minority of a majority. Not a lot of drivers did change. I'm looking through the thread as there's a little bit of a spin from Urexoy. Those tires are a little bit hot. I think he's going to give up this run, come back to the pits and put some fresh tires on there. But Greg Doucette, Nicholas Carangas, and Matt Dinsmore, all the Throttle Thursday drivers, have switched from the Lamborghini to the BMW. Pete Mejia is sticking with the Porsche, though. And Steve Bammer has switched from the Merc to the Ferrari. And Pete Mejia still sticking with the Porsche, as I said. And those are basically the only changes. There have not been many more.
It feels a little bit more equitable, although maybe that's just me misremembering Sprint and Fix and conflating them. Another puff of smoke, by the way, through that long right-hander in the middle part of the lap with less than 5 minutes to run. It's after this where the configuration of Fuji that we use slightly differs from where a lot of major racing series may use the chicane. We instead slightly fly past it right around here. The drivers usually would be prepared for a heavier braking zone, but it's by no means an easy variant of the corner that we bring.
It's so much better, though. It's so much more fun. I'm not a fan of that chicane, or you might say it's a better passing opportunity. It's a heavy braking zone. It's a hairpin, but with the way it's designed, it isn't really, because you're on the inside, then you're on the outside, then you're on the inside again. It's just so much better to just have a straight line through there, and this might frustrate you, Arjun. Normally with that chicane, you've got turn 10, then turn 12, then turn 13, or turn 10, turn 11, turn 12. Even when you skip the chicane, though, it goes from turn 10 to turn 12. Turn 11's gone.
I'm very frustrated. Very frustrated. Who came up with that? there's no logic. There is no logic. Chad Dick to the line. We'll find 7/10 of a second, almost 8/10 of a second, in fact, and that is going to be good enough to see him leap rocket up in towards the top 10. Impressive to get the qualifying lap in. Sully Sarda jumped up in towards the top 5 a moment ago. He's going to be setting up for what will be another lap, and this will be his final run as well. He's got no time to head back to pit lane and get more tires.
The draft isn't as effective here as it is normally in an open wheel car, but it is still somewhat effective. It's a very, very long front straight, more than 1 kilometer long. I don't know what 1 kilometer is, but that front straight's more than one of them. It's very, very long. You can still use some of the draft there, and in qualifying, it's going to be very important. Ray Dominguez thought about maybe stealing some draft from that Ferrari up ahead. I believe that was Andrew Vanaro, but he has disposed of himself over those sausage curbs, and Dominguez is going to be all on his own here. You got to be careful of those sausage curbs on the outside of the final corner as well. Those can very well destroy your suspension. Steven Martinez goes up to P8. But here comes Ray Dominguez to the line, all on his own in a BMW, which could be very fast in a straight line. Not fast enough.
Well,
second down in his fastest.
He totally bailed after Andrew Vanaro. I didn't pick up if it was Vanaro, but I'm assuming you're right. You could see the hesitancy there and couldn't really get going, and so same sort of situation for Errol Urexoy now as they gather themselves up. Greg Doucette runs to the line. We'll get 2 more attempts if he wants to, but that was a 136, so he does not improve as Roy Brown up into 13th. If you're wondering what the weather conditions are like, it's pretty nice conditions for racing, all things considered. If you want the proper units for temperature, 42, 43 degrees Celsius on the track itself.
You never want to see those triple digits, but it seems like every single race in the PRL, it's been triple digits of temperature on the road courses, on the ovals. I mean, it's the ultimate challenge. It really tests the drivers when you're scraping the tires off like mozzarella cheese, but I think they all wish that it would just be double digits of Fahrenheit for once, and it never is.
I think Errol Urexoy had an issue because he seems to have lost ground relative to our provisional pole position sitter, who's had an issue of his own, and now gets tagged. Ray Dominguez stricken in the middle of the track and will finally get out of dodge. Unfortunately, just a little bit too late. There's Greg Doucette, who will be one of the final cars inside the top 5 to improve. As I say that, he goes off exit stage left and will return to pit lane. No, he's going to try and maybe get another lap underneath his belt, but at least for now, I think most drivers inside the top 5 probably done for qualifying. Pete Mejia, will he find some improvement?
He might if he doesn't get held up by Chad Dick here in the final sector. I don't know if Chad's on a quick lap right now, but there is a little bit of a gap. Shouldn't be providing too much dirty air to Mejia here. Mejia should be able to actually steal a little bit of a draft off the back of Chad Dick once they get onto the front straight. So let's see here. Into this final corner, kind of off camber. It's a little bit like the second to last corner at Sepang in Malaysia for all of you F1 fans from pre-2018. Very long, very late apex, and then long, long front straight. But Mejia's done. He's coming back to the pits.
Yeah, something was off about the way he fired off the corner as well. And so, again, I want to reiterate, this is not the easiest pit lane entry, and look how deep the cones are as well, where you actually must be down at the speed limit. So you've got some runoff to work with. Errol Urexoy is going to try and find those 300s that he needs to pit Ray Dominguez, who will be watching on as the checkered flag flies in qualifying, and drivers can complete the lap that they're on, and that will be it. Here's Christopher Rhines to the line.
P6. Well done by him, picking up a couple of extra tenths. Pete Mejia, as he is in the pits, he's not going to be able to get back up there, so Rhines has stolen that third row. Here comes Buck Hamilton. No improvement for him. He's going to be disappointed with P18, I think. Here comes one of the other Ferraris, Waldo Walden. Unfortunately for Waldo, he will be almost shotgun in the field back there in 30th, but not that far off a pole. These are almost GT3 sprint level field separations from last year. There's only about 1.5 seconds between first and 30th.
Dale Peterson, we saw him cross the line as well, but has Urexoy done enough? 300ths. That's all he needs to find. And no, he just is on the wrong side of his own lap time. 400ths off in the end, but gave it a valiant effort with the tires very much, I'm sure, done and dusted. Baron Hilton will find almost a full second, goes from 33rd up towards only 28th position. Shows how close the field truly is. He's only 1 second off a pole.
It's good to see Baron Hilton in the field, though. Just like Charles Sumner, one of our NASCAR regulars, giving the GT3s a try once more. You did see Charles Sumner improve there. Chad Dick's going to get a little bit of pit lane practice in. P12's going to be kind of disappointing for him. He was in the fight for the win last week, but lots of racing to do. And I think you'll be happy to hear this, Arjuna. In Japanese, you know what checkered flag is?
Okay.
Cheka furagu.
Okay. I did ask what Japanese you brought.
That's all I got.
Did Google help you with that right now?
It did, right now.
I definitely could not tell. We've got about 40 seconds to burn before the field makes their way down to the grid and gets ready to go racing for another 35 minutes. Remember, we expect pit stops as well, given that these cars run a slightly capped fuel capacity. It's Ray Dominguez, Errol Urexoy on top with a 10th, splitting the top 5 here.
That's going to make things very, very interesting as we go into turn 1. It is a rolling start in the GT3 Fix series, so you do get the speed built up already. You get drivers trying to strategize, maybe dive to the inside in turn 1, try and go around the outside and set up for turn 2, with the top 5 separated by a single 10th. Basically, anybody can take the lead into turn 1, depending on who wants to be the latest on the brakes.
Yeah, let's not think about the 3 wide that might lie in front of us. The other thing to remember is with such a long main straightaway is fuel mileage and fuel games are going to be something that these drivers look to play well. All we know is after Watkins Glen, it's something a little less familiar for the drivers to deal with here today. We make our way to the land of the rising sun, and the drivers in the GT3 Fix Series are ready to rock and roll. It's Ray Dominguez in that BMW that will bring us to the green with a 135.782. Errol Urexoy still searching for that elusive race victory alongside, with Evan Smoger up there in 3rd alongside Greg Doucette in the BMW for Throttle Thursday. It's a SRT Esport green affair on the 3rd row, the 222 in front of the 111. Jared Keane leads Christopher Rhines, 5th and 6th positions with Pete Mejia, and then Sully Saad behind 7th and 8th. Steven Martinez and Eric Hulaga in that Ford bookend your top 10 with Jeff Carollo, Chad Dick on row number 6. 13th, hopefully not unlucky 13th for Roy Brown in the Team Beef Porsche. He's got Angelo Velosa in the Ferrari for We Race Esport on his right-hand side. Matt Dinsmore, John Jones, our Week 1 winner, has it all to do from 16th in the field with Matt Arnold, Dale Peterson 17th and 18th, Rodrigo Morales and Buck Hamilton 19th and 20th. Felix Feliz, Nicholas Carangis, Andrew Venaro in a very blue Ferrari, and then Reagan Chandler in the best of the Chandler ran entry, starts 24th. You'll see behind him the YS Motorsports pair, one in a Lamborghini, one in a Ferrari. It's Corey Precker, Sean Mulholland, Jacob Darling, Baron Hilton, Steve Bammer, and then Michael Kulaga through your top 30 with, again, just over a second splitting those top 15 rows. Waldo Walden, Glenn Vanko, Jason Bridges, Charles Sumner, Nathan Miller, and then Josh Kimball through the top 36. Just 2 more drivers, one that I don't think we got to see roll out there last time, Chance Chet, and then David Morse. Shotgun on the 38 car strong grid. As ever, featured onboard cameras to walk you through. Ray Dominguez was very happy, I can tell you earlier. He's back behind the wheel of what looks to be a roll cage prepared car amongst the sea of other drivers ready to go, Joey.
Yeah, a lot of those drivers are some of our GT3 sprint drivers, like Ryan O'Connor, who appears to have entered a Pittsburgh steel factory in the weeks between last week and now. But down on the bottom left, you do have Reagan Chandler, I believe that's the correct Chandler. Then, Ray Dominguez in the Urban Safari. Corey Precker up on top in his fantastic new basement. I think I have those same IKEA shelves at home where he's got his shoes. And then all those guys on the right. Those will be coming up a little bit later in GT3 Sprint. But things are about to get very interesting here. It's a short pace lap.
If you're wondering who it was, by the way, we've got Carl Modoff lined up as well as Vincent Trepanier. So a couple of strong drivers already getting set for what's bound to be an interesting evening of racing here. We'll see the pace car pull off and away, and Ray Dominguez will take control of the field. And after what a up and down opening round that he had, he'll be looking to show some sort of consistency over 35 minutes. 21-22 laps, that's what we're in for. Drivers expected to come into pit lane probably with about 10 or 15 minutes left to run. Look at the run that they've got as well on that storm down in towards that opening braking zone. Pace car off and away. Dominguez gets ready to see the green and picks up the throttle to get us racing here in Fuji. for the GT3 Fix Series. Behind him, going to string out single file initially as they try and funnel in towards the braking zone, but most importantly, Dominguez will lead them safely down through the off-camber opening corner. A couple of side-by-side moments behind, no three-wide activity for the most part, but look at that, Dominguez overcommitted, and Errol Urexoy has the lead.
Looks to be clean through the back of the field. There's always the possibility, especially in league races, for a little bit of a checkup into turn one, but albeit with a little bit of a slide from Matt Arnold, everybody clean off the exit of turn one, through the Coca-Cola corner and then down into 100R. Clean all throughout the field, but there's a dive from Greg Doucette on Evan Smoger into the hairpin. Don't think he was able to make that work.
Chance Chet has been tagged at the back of the field. I think Nathan Miller was involved, but the rest of the field continues to battle, and now they'll head towards that slightly different configuration, no chicane instead, double right-hander now that they will fly on through. Greg Doucette almost gets ran through the corner by Jarakeen, and now they'll bring a little bit more speed up in towards this off-camber uphill corner. It is still going to be Urexoy that leads, but do you want to lead running onto that long pitch straightaway? We're about to find out.
I mean, when we're talking about saving fuel, as we always do in this series, I don't know if you necessarily want to be leading here, because that 1 kilometer front straight is going to give Ray Dominguez both a great chance to get a run and try and pass Errol Urexoy if he wants to, but it's also going to give him a chance to save a little bit of fuel in the straight line here. He can pull up to the back of Urexoy and lift off a little bit early into turn one, maybe even lift off a little bit on the straight, as there's big calamity at the back of the field. And I think that's a wreck for last.
I think it was Rodrigo Morales that rejoined and took Steve Ballmer with him, but into turn one, no moves really, but are we actually going to go almost 4 wide? No, just 3 wide. Carollo, Veloz, Dick somehow will make it stick until the Ferrari goes around, and Veloz will spin and take one of the Throttle Thursday BMWs with him.
They're having an argument. Both of them want to get back on the track as fast as possible, and they are arguing a little bit there, but I don't know if Chad Dick was entirely to the inside of Angelo Veloz there. I don't think he intended to send as much of a dive as he did, but just made a little bit of contact with Veloz in the apex there, and the likes of Dale Peterson, Michael Kulaga, Felix Feliz, I think also. None of them had anywhere to go.
So we're not even 2 laps in, and I think already 7 or so cars have made their way down to pit lane. Corey Precker might be one of the next to do so, because his Lamborghini's been off and around with relatively cool tires as well. Not an easy start to this race by any means. But inside of the top 11, only 1 swap around, and that was Dominguez going deep and Urexoy taking advantage. No one else has really been able to make moves. Is it going to be Smogor next on past Dominguez, who looks to be struggling a little bit through the slower stuff?
Out of the final corner, he's actually had a pretty decent exit here. He's about 3/10 closer than he was in the previous lap. And now we have to start thinking again. Errol Urexoy has gone multiple seasons in the PRL. He's had poles, he's had pace to win, but every single time it has come apart for him. He finds himself in the lead once again. How can he hang on to this for the next 31.5 minutes? Does he want to lead the race right now, or can he back off, think about the long game, let Dominguez lead a little bit and jump him in the pits? I don't know, but Errol Urexoy is thinking about all that stuff right now.
I think Urexoy's got to be careful that he doesn't get a slowdown, cutting a bit too much of that inside, if I'm being perfectly honest as well. Chad Dick up the inside of Buck Hamilton, who doesn't fight him too hard. Dale Peterson, Nicholas Coran, just Matt Arnold, Reagan Chandler. They're tripping over one another the further back that you go. It is a very colorful grid, you're not wrong.
Peterson in the highlighter yellow, Greg Doucette in the new highlighter green, Throttle Thursday, sort of dazzle camo look. And Matt Arnold has ditched the copium for this week, so very well done to him.
So it was just a nickname, which I'm disappointed about.
I think so.
Because you got to stick with it. Let's grab a look at some of the replays, starting on the opening lap with Chance Chet.
Oh dear. Just, I mean, not even too late in the brakes necessarily, just didn't have the car angled to actually make the corner, and then absolutely kablamos the purple Audi right on the apex there. I was wondering how Chance Chet wrecked, considering he was on the last row, but that's how it happened, and then up the hill here, the curbs bite.
Yeah, let's take a look at Rodrigo Morales, and I think Felix Feliz initially, and then is that Corey Precker who has to take avoiding action, and then someone else clips Felix Feliz, and I couldn't quite figure out who that one was, and that's the aftermath that I was waiting to see.
I think that may have been Steve Bammer, who was the last one on the scene there, but here is what happened into that final corner. You feel like it's a 90-degree corner, but it actually isn't. It's quite a bit tighter than that. And those portions on those cold tires, taking a little bit too much speed into there, getting the rear loose and looping it all around. But here's what happened with Chad Dick and Angelo Veloz into turn 1. They were almost 4 wide. It became 3 wide. And then into turn 1, Chad Dick not trying to send the dive, but he couldn't get out of it. Veloz turns in, and everybody else comes onto the scene. There's an argument in the runoff area to get back on the track.
I think Matt Dinsmore somewhat got tangled up in that as well, because he is amongst Felice, Kulago, Bammer, and Chet in being down on pit lane. Everyone else is still on the lead lap, so 38 started. 33 still left out there and running. I've had a couple of swap arounds while we were cycling through some of those incidents, but still nothing inside of the top 5. Eric Kulaga has jumped up in front of Steven Martinez. Let's jump on board with Ray Dominguez, who, like I said, was all smiles after putting it on pole position, but now has a little bit more focus. He's got to try and close almost 8/10 though to your Exo. That's the benefit that the draft will give, but if you are losing that time lap after lap through the mid part and the twistier stuff, come the pit window, you could be vulnerable.
Well, I'm just confused now, Arjuna. I'm looking at the frame on the top, I'm looking at the frame on the bottom, and I don't know which one's the real Ray Dominguez. I can't tell.
I do like the helmet. You see the helmet in the rearview mirror as well.
He is missing an arm, which is unfortunate, but hopefully that grows back for him like a starfish.
He's like Deadpool. I was trying to think of a superhero that, you know, can regenerate limbs.
Patrick Starr can regenerate his limbs.
Sure.
It's back, it's gone. Either way, I think he does have full power there, and he's keeping it within a second of Aero Urex, so I think that's all that matters right now. Probably doesn't have the raw pace to pass him, I don't think, but if he can save a little bit of fuel, we know that's been Urexo's weak point. This race could still be won on strategy.
Just saying that if it was 8/10 at the line and Dominguez loses another couple of tenths this lap, another couple of tenths the next lap, it is going to start opening up. The rainbow continues to battle. It's Matt Arnold on the outside this time of Dale Peterson, and you can make that work. Peterson's got to watch for Caranjas, who will try and be the next one in line to attack. These drivers have cost themselves 3 seconds, though, up to Roy Brown.
You can see that Dale Peterson's rear wing is not at all straight. It's very askew there. It's not going to help him very much. There goes Greg Doucette by. Peterson might have just got himself an incident point going off there. And you do have to be careful of those around here. This is one of those grade 1 tracks where those incident points come very, very quickly, and you only get 13 of them in the PRL before you get to drive through 17, as there's a huge save from Regan Chandler. He's not getting off tracks, he's having trouble on track.
So even without that chicane, it turns out that you can hit the anti-cut curve there, and that poor BMW didn't really know what it was doing until Reagan was able to grab a lock on it. Arnold's already cleared 1.5 seconds to Caranjas after the duel with Peterson through the mid part of the lap, and now that Caranjas goes wide, gonna cut back into line and check the whole group up once again. Say goodbye to Matt Arnold. That battle though for 17th place is gonna look quite fun.
I hope Caranjas leaves Peterson a car length, because it certainly looks like he's trying to fire him into the pit wall. Give each other some more room, guys. They're slowing each other down in the front straight by doing that. It's turning into a little bit of a side draft, NASCAR style. And you can see that the 38 of Andrew Venaro ended up getting a good run there. Could have had a chance to make it 3 wide. Has to back out of it, but they are getting very, very aggressive for P17.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I liked everything that I saw there. Check back in up towards the front. Jarrett Keane has been passed by Greg Doucette for 4th position, or repassed, I should say. And they're going to work their way in through that middle part of the lap. Oh, say it ain't so.
Oh, no.
The battle's gone bad. Dale Peterson's lost a bunch of bodywork on that Ferrari, I think.
Yeah, that does not look like a fun time there. That's over at 100R. That's an interesting place to lose it. I have a feeling I know how that happened. He might have clipped the curb a little bit too much and lost the rear. We'll take a look at a replay when we can, or right now. How about this? Instant replay through the Coca-Cola corner at turn 3, and yeah, just loses the rear. He's already lost a little bit of downforce with that rear wing being bent. Carries a ton of speed in there. There's a little bit of a divot on the curb that offsets the rear, and there's a wall there.
I think a lot of the time people don't realize that curbs on that inside are, you say divot, but they're undulating is the way to also describe it, right? It's not
concave.
Concave, right? It's not flat. That's the thing. No, it is always unsettling to a car, and so got to be careful with how much you use it, especially like you mentioned with track limits being a talking point today. Evan Smogor, small mistake, almost has lost draft to Dominguez, who was close right up to Errol Urexoy in the race lead with 6 laps now complete. is starting to stretch out just that little bit more now, and with the fuel window starting to get closer and closer, 10 laps, or 10 minutes complete, I should say, 10 minutes away likely from seeing drivers thinking about it that little bit more. If I'm Dominguez, I'm probably not going to be looking to pass just yet.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to make the pass on track, and I also don't think he's necessarily going to be able to make the pass on track unless there's a big mistake out of Rexoy. But this is kind of the meta in racing. We saw it to full effect in that Formula E race at Portland over the weekend.
Oh boy.
There's times in racing where you don't want to lead. You want to hang back, you want to save your stuff, and then you wait until a certain decided point in the race to start firing off. It doesn't make for the most exciting stuff in the first 15 minutes or so, first half of the race, but once that strategy comes around, once you've put yourself in the right place, that's how you win a race. Not necessarily at raw speed, but there's big trouble at the back.
You don't win a race like that. You also don't win a race coming back onto track from that far out like Buck Hamilton, unfortunately. I will say that I thought Formula E was absolutely amazing. Genuinely, I loved all of it, but I also do love a little bit of a strategy fight like that because I understood that the fighting was not always the thing to be focusing on. Let's try and dial on in what happened with, I think Waldo Walden was amongst those that got tangled up in incidents. He starts by heading down into the braking zone. No one behind him necessarily. It's an Audi that spins in front.
Oh dear. I mean, well done by Waldo to get in the brakes as much as he could there to not make that an even bigger accident. I believe that's the Audi of Nathan Miller right ahead. And Waldo doesn't really get any damage out of that. So that's some very heads-up driving from a guy who comes from the NASCAR side. He's used to having to check up for big wrecks and avoid them. His only win in the PRL came on a super speedway after he did that, so he's still got those avoidance skills.
See if we can figure out what happened with Buck Hamilton as well in a few moments' time, because it was around the same point where he ended up off the circuit. Didn't seem like it was through any fault of his own as well. Back up front, still within 0.4 of a second. Always nice to see that they're keeping it quite close, but I wonder if we are going to see potential pit stops, given that the field is relatively close and it's not a short pit lane by any means. See if we can figure out what happened with Buck Hamilton, by the way, Joey, because it was down in a corner where we've seen some cars have issues, but unlike Reagan Chandler, I don't think Buck Hamilton was able to hang on to this.
I mean, he wasn't able to hang on to it, but he did get lucky. There's about a mile of runoff there with a huge overcorrection. There was an update to gravel and grass in a recent iRacing update. It does slow the cars down a little bit more, so he's lucky not to get into the wall. And the 38 of Andrew Vanaro goes around in the same place, just a different part of the track. It may be more fun to drive it without the chicane, but it's still high speed. There's still a massive curb on the inside. It's a little bit like Hockenheim Turn 1. You've got to nail it every time. If you get it one little bit wrong, too wide or too narrow on the inside, you're basically guaranteed to spin.
It is not a very forgiving circuit, even though it does have tarmac at places. You've got plenty of grass that will catch you out as well. The curb's not always friendly at the best of times either. Say hello once again. Fight for fourth position. Greg Doucette continues to run point. Behind him, Jared Keane, Christopher Rines, Pete Mejia. And you got Sully Saad, Kulaga, not too far off the back of them either, before some separation to Steven Martinez in that Ferrari 488. But mentioning earlier, with these drivers not necessarily wanting to fight until after the pit stops, that usually becomes even more important, or even more of a factor the further back that you are, because you're able to save even more fuel just by virtue of the fact that you're running to the pace of the man punching, or the driver punching the hole in the air.
Yeah, I'm thinking about some of the drivers in this little quadrant here in the middle of the field. Maybe the likes of Pete Mejia, Sully Saad, they're kind of riding behind this little battle with Doucette, Keane, and Rines. If they want to come in early, if they can find some clean track at the back of the field, they might be able to benefit. But if I was Greg Doucette or if I was Jared Keane, I would not be taking the risk right now. But look who's taking the risk. It's the guy who almost won a championship at a Ford last season, Eric Kulaga, rather, coming into the pits in that Ford. He's going off strategy early.
He will try something different. Your leader seems to have caught a bit of lap traffic, and as Errol Rexoy swings out wide, Dominguez is not going to take the bait. Will elect to continue to run in line, but Evan Smoger, as a result of that, does get dragged a little bit closer. Race 1 winner, John Jones, able to get up to 9th position. has climbed 7 spots so far this race. And I did say it earlier, qualifying is important. He's now got to find almost 5 seconds to close up to 8th position.
And he's got to hold Jeff Carollo behind him as well. Carollo's no slouch. He might have been passed, but that battle is not over by any means. And Chad Dick as well. He's on a little bit of a recovery drive after his incident with Angelo Veloz. He's trying to redeem himself. He's trying to get back in the top 10, especially after the way last week went. Didn't finish the race. And all 3 of these drivers definitely going to be looking forward. Maybe a 4.5 second gap up to Sully Saad, but I think all 3 of these guys have the speed to do so, especially with the fighting that's going on up there. Doucette and Keane are still side by side.
This does not help the cause as they try and close on those in front and try and stave off those closing from behind. Doucette holds on for the time being, but they're the next ones to encounter, I believe, Rodrigo Morales in the We Race Esports Porsche, who says, I'm having no part of this, slide on through. Greg Doucette. We'll see if the 222 of Jared Keane is going to be able to get alongside once again into that braking zone of turn number 1. Popping out of draft, if anything, is Jared Keane. I think that's the recognition that he wants to stay in line for the time being. Joey, you're a man of many puns. I am issuing you a challenge for the rest of the season because you said that you were running out of puns to go with Ryan O'Connor's, look and whatnot. I've gotten very into Lord of the Lost recently. I feel very bad that they did not get the recognition they deserve during Eurovision. I'm challenging you to bring in as many of their song titles as you can into the next broadcast and see if I can catch it.
What country was Lord of the Lost? I don't even remember that
Germany.
one.
Wow, you don't even remember.
Oh, yeah, I do remember. That was the one that was
Blood and Glitter.
Blood and Glitter, yeah.
Yeah. They've got a great discography. I can say
Do
that.
they have other songs?
Oh, they've got many. Yeah, they've got some songs.
Well, I mean, like Jared, I'm keen.
Yeah. Hopefully he won't end up 6 feet underground.
I mean, we all will eventually, but hopefully it's not until too long.
Yeah, that is a very that's one of those puns that you can only use once, and so I never hope to use that one again. 17 and a bit minutes left to go, and again 1 lap later they're almost side by side, and this is where Doucette's got to be careful that he doesn't compromise himself too much. He gets a little bit loose and he'll be so tight as he tries to squeeze onto the power. Jared Keane, if anything, too keen to try and get the run, and so now if anything backing off, and we'll have to wait and reset.
Look who's that, pulling into the pits, Evan Smoger. He looked to be quicker than Dominguez and Urexo in those past couple of laps. He was closing that gap, and he's decided, the way I'm going to pass both of those guys, I'm going to go off strategy. I'm going to try and find some clean track at the back of the field, and I am going to come in earlier than anybody. This battle's going to rage on for the podium for just a minute, but it should be about 4th once everything shakes out. Jared Keane, like you said, is very keen to make this move. He's not necessarily interested in saving fuel anymore. I think he knows he's coming into the pits in 1 or 2 more laps. He definitely wants that track position. He's sick of seeing this BMW who's ahead of him and clearly struggling a little bit and already sliding around.
Again, this is fixed setup, so these drivers don't get the luxury of being able to dial the cars in for these relatively warm conditions. Japanese tarmac as well, slightly different in construction to what a lot of other surfaces are around the world, and so it has its own little abrasive nature that drivers have to contend with. So be a bit of a contrast potentially as we head over into the GT3 Sprint Series. Same track, likely the similar sort of conditions, but drivers having that ability to dial the cars in to work that a little bit better. They're going to catch a bit of lap traffic once again, and it's an SRT Esport machine. I think it is... I can't quite pick out the number 21 of David Morse. And once again, Jared Keane just a little bit too close, but actually maybe learnt the lesson. Is he going to dive down to pit lane this time, or is he going to try and use the draft? They're all staying out there.
He is, and SRT have unfortunately done the cardinal sin as well. They've got 3 cars that look exactly the same. Luckily, those numbers are pretty prominent, especially with the 3-digit numbers. Those are very, very easy to pick out from a distance. But yeah, all 3 cars painted exactly the same. Makes it very difficult to differentiate. Precision Racing Esports hurt us, by the way, as there's some bumper cars into turn 1.
Did they?
They might be differently painted now, because I think that second car might be missing a front bumper suit.
Good point. The Precision Racing Esports guys heard our pleas.
They heard our pleas. I don't know if they've all changed. Jeff Evans messaged me and said that Nathan Bartley will have new colors.
Okay,
Hopefully that means
okay.
all of them will have different colors. Hopefully.
I like the sound of this. I'm curious. I'm intrigued. Glenn Vanko down to pit lane, by the way. Buck Hamilton in front of Sean Mulholland. Only got about 15 or so cars that are yet to come down on towards the pit lane, and so slowly that pit window is closing. Your leader's content, though, to continue running out there. We're just 7/10 or so splitting the two of them. It's Porsche and then BMW. The other car in the mix here, of course, is Evan Smogor. Another Porsche fighting at the front.
Yeah, Evan is lucky, or not lucky, smart. He's looked at the gaps on track. He's made sure he didn't come out in traffic, and he's done exactly that. Hasn't gotten held up. He's in clean air. He's got about 4 seconds up to Josh Kimball, and he's just running qualifying laps right now, basically. Last lap for him, a 2:13 because it was an out lap, but we're going to have to compare that to what Urexoy and Dominguez can do. I don't think it looks like either of them are coming in. This is a very, very long fuel window. We don't normally see guys go this late into the race, but I think they're thinking, let's go for as long as possible.
I got traffic as Christopher Rhines and Jared Keane will come in, so that battle for net 4th position is going to split up slightly, and we'll see if the SRT teammates can work together. Pete Mejia is going to concede ground to Sully Saad through that opening corner. I'm really intrigued by these split calls that we're seeing, because these aren't 1 or 2 lap undercuts / overcuts. These are a couple more laps here and there.
It's one of the widest fuel windows we've seen in a long time. I don't think anybody's going to bother taking tires here, even with the track temp. And even though the majority of the corners of this track are right-hand corners, I don't think anybody's going to deem it worthy to do that. But there go both of the SRT cars. Nathan Miller, what's his name? Nathan Miller, Josh Kimball. I can't even think who that is. There's so many purple cars. It's one of those purple Audis, but here comes the SRT Porsches right ahead of Eric Kulaga. They're both going to beat him out. Jeff Carolla is who I was thinking of. It finally came to me.
I'm glad that you struggle with identifying cars from time to time as well, because it does happen to the best of us. Carollo is still alongside Martinez, who's got very tight and going to finally get clear and swoop his momentum on through the left-hand sweeper. Meanwhile, I think our leaders are about to descend to pit lane, because Dominguez is going to go 1 lap longer. This is where he's been biding his time. Undercut or overcut, let's find out which is quicker.
I don't know if this was smart, though, because look at the car who's right in front of him. That's Waldo Walden, who has not been the quickest car on track. If Ray Dominguez catches him at the wrong time, he's going to get held up and lose a ton of time to Aero Urexoy. He might have got a little bit of a draft down the front straight there, but he needs to be careful not to let Waldo hold him up.
I guess the question also becomes, as Dominguez still rides behind and sits in the draft, where's Evan Smogor going to fare? He's just headed out onto the long main straightaway. Urexoy has hit his marks quite well. Not going up on the jacks for tires. He is just putting fuel in, and it's a nice, short 10.3 second stop. Evan Smogor was 11.1 seconds stationary. It is going to be enough to see Urexoy inherit the net race lead for the time being. 2.3 seconds clear of the number 2.
So that's the first hurdle crossed for Aero Urexoy right now. Now we have to wait for Ray Dominguez to come in. Here's the blend for Mejia and the 2 SRT cars. Christopher Rhines getting very close to the side of Mejia on pit exit there. It's kind of a dangerous pit exit in the way it feeds the cars onto the apex into turn 1. Well done, everybody there, giving each other enough room, getting back in line. And Mejia, I believe, has netted a position there from his early stop. He's actually jumped Rhines.
I think you're right, all things considered. There's Dominguez, who surely is not going 1 lap longer. Surely
no signs of coming in.
Not. He's going 15 laps and beyond. Less than 10 minutes will be left in this race by the time the 28 heads down to the lane.
I mean, that might be very smart. It's going to shorten your pit stop a little bit. Generally, the way things work, no matter where you pit in this series, you're going to have the same time on pit lane, because that's just how the math works. But if you can go later on in the race, you might be able to take a little bit of a shorter stop, depending on how far you can go. Everybody else in the field is now pitted. Doucette's in, Saad is in, Jones is in, and Sean Mulholland should be in a matter of moments here. But Ray Dominguez is doing some fuel miracles here, and he didn't get held up by Waldo Walden. It was still a 1:36.5 for him on that last lap. Not the fastest lap in the world, but it could have been worse.
It was about half a second off the fastest lap that particular lap, so tracks relatively well. Pit delta for Urexoy from cone to cone was 41 seconds, but that doesn't tell the whole story, let's not forget, because of how pit lane entry and exit kind of works here. So just keep your eye on what should be a rather interesting fight. John Jones is going to exit pit lane and be behind what is, I guess, still technically the net fight for fourth. Although Greg Doucette's got a great lead over Sully Saad, Jared Keane, Pete Mejia's alongside with Christopher Rines. Two Porsches door to door. Mejia's got the inside and has the position for now.
A little bit jumpy for Christopher Rines there over the outside curbs. That's going to be one of his off tracks for him. We're going to have to start thinking about that very, very soon here with 9 minutes to go. A lot of drivers have been abusing the track limits a little bit. We're going to be getting close on incident points. But we've got to be getting close to pitting now. Here comes Ray Dominguez. He's finally in. Gets it slowed down a little bit tentatively. I think he was a little bit conservative on the brakes there. But now we sit and wait. Has Aero Urexoy lost another race in the pits? Or can he finally take the lead? Has he finally got this figured out? He's fighting for his first win here.
I'm just saying, if he does lose it in pit lane, I'm blaming you again, Joey. I'm just saying.
I mean, you got to blame him for not copying Ray Dominguez, but we don't know what's going to happen yet. Dominguez hasn't even come to his stall yet while Urexoy is on the front straight here. Dominguez is lucky. He can pull almost all the way to the front of the grid, or yes, all the way to the front of the grid. He's going to have a great exit here. It's going to be a short stop.
And he's not up on the jacks either, so 9.3 seconds stationary. He's going to roll away, but it's Urexoy that will have the momentum and will blow on through. He does not lose it on strategy. He may still lose it on track, though. Dominguez will get through one bit of traffic of his own. Smogor's in the mix as well. 3 cars with 8 minutes to go, fighting for the win.
That was fantastically helpful for Aero Urexoy there. Jason Bridges in the Mercedes did nothing wrong. Opened the door for Ray Dominguez when he was coming out of the pits. Did a great job of getting out of the way, but Dominguez still had to check up just a little bit. It lost him about 4/10 to Urexoy, and it lost him the draft. Dominguez has a lot of work to do here, and Urexoy is in his best position ever. He's finally survived the pit cycle. He's leading in the final 10 minutes of the race, and now he's just got to hold on and he can get his first win.
No commentators' curses. That's the promise that comes from me. I don't know if Joey can live up to that bargain. Here's a look at what happened to Baron Hilton. Oh, another one to come a cropper of that alternate configuration and goes around the bollards. And how's he going to get out of this one?
Don't get lost Kimi Räikkönen style.
He doesn't have his traction control off-bound, but he is able to spin it around. Well done, Baron Hilton. Only lost 4 positions, through all of that.
A little bit of a clonk of that Japanese sausage there, but well done by Baron Hilton, falling behind one of his old NASCAR buddies there, Waldo Walden, as well. So at least he's got a friendly face back there. Steven Martinez, I mean, if we saw his face, it probably wouldn't be very friendly right now, because I think he's just spun out of the top 10.
Yeah, I think he has indeed. I'm not sure if it was a pressure-induced mistake or something else, but he does seem to still be going relatively slowly. At the line was, what, 1.2 seconds or so between Urexoy, Dominguez, and then a further second back to Evan Smogor. I don't want to say that at no point did Smogor really look like he had the pace to challenge Urexoy and Dominguez, but we'll see if he's going to be able to close. Sully Saad on the inside of Jared Keane. These drivers 3 seconds back of Greg Doucette, who's running away in 4th.
And Greg's going to be feeling pretty safe right now, but this has become a spirited battle for 5th. Jared Keane on the inside. That's a very difficult place to make an overtake, if not an impossible place to make an overtake, and Sully Saad shows why. Keeps the momentum on the outside, pinches Keane onto the apex, and Saad will hang on for the moment, but Keane is very, very aggressive. I'm very happy that he's living up to his name. There's a word for that. I don't know what it is, and there's my old buddy Jeff Carollo in the purple Audi in turn 1.
Yes, that is another hard lick. We'll get a look at what happened to him, but first we'll take a look at what happened with Steven Martinez, who just kept himself too tight on the initial entry. Wonder if he ended up with a slowdown as a result of that as well, but definitely lost a few positions. Oh, we know what's going to happen here.
Looks go. No, that's not what I thought was going to happen there. There's a little bit of a bump on the outside there.
Bonk.
It's almost like a street circuit. You have to know where the bumps are. If you go off in the wrong way, you're hitting a massive bump and you are going into the wall. I think there may have also been a little bit of damage for Steven Martinez in that Ferrari. I think that's why he was so slow. He has recovered. He's 13th now, but he was looking like he was ailing.
Okay, Steven, you got me confused for a second because we just watched a replay of an Audi and I was going, where has suddenly Ferrari come from? But
it's too many cars.
I'm picking up what you are putting down. I will say for the Audi in particular of Jeff Corolla, it's a good thing that there's no front engine version of the R8, because that might still be drivable, at least here in the world of iRacing. Christopher Rines is going to continue the slide for Pete Mejia as he gets up the inside. Mejia's going to have to watch for Kulagu. Looks quite hungry to try and get it done around the outside, but never really a passing opportunity there. Slightly further up in front, Sully Saar, Jared King continue to go back and forth at it. It's great racing, just why not for the lead? Although I don't think Errol Urexo is complaining.
Yeah, Jared Keane actually got by Sully Saad, I think in turn 1, and has instantly lost it again at Sully Saad's favorite corner at turn 3, so we're just kind of seeing history repeat itself here. That's not Greg Doucette behind them, that is their teammate, Nicholas Carangis. No, it's not, it's Matt Dinsmore. Again, cars that look completely identical, and they're all in BMWs.
Case in point, now people see why they need to make their liveries more obvious for us.
And they've all been in kind of similar places. Like Greg Doucette, he hasn't had any trouble. He's been in 4th all day, but he was fighting with these guys. Carrantes was fighting with these guys, then got into trouble. Matt Dinsmore was fighting with these guys, then got into trouble. They're just scattered all throughout the field. We're seeing Throttle Thursday everywhere.
There's trouble everywhere as well, but Eric Kulaga's not going to be able to take advantage to get past Pete Mejia, but maybe now we'll use that grunt of the Ford motor to murder down the main straightaway. It's a pretty good exit, all things considered as well. I will just highlight something as well, if we can take a look at Matt Dinsmore. That you can't read the car number. I mean, it's like literally impossible to figure out who is on screen.
Is it white? Is it white, or is it just a blank blank number pad?
It's because he has the wrong car selected in the iRacing template. That's beside the point. Oh, he gets out of dodge. Eric Kulaga gets up the inside, up to 8th position.
Notice on the side of Eric Kulaga's car, he doesn't actually have the number plate. He's just got a big number 66 on the side of there, almost NASCAR style. So, as if it wasn't easy enough to differentiate that car, being the only Ford in the field, that's a little bit of extra help as well.
Yes, but you know the rule about custom numbers in endurance racing, right?
They're never good?
No, get in the bin is the rule.
I think they're good. I like them.
No, never. The one thing that I did not realize about the IMSA number plate. Do you know what font that is?
Is it Helvetica?
It is Arial Bold.
I mean, that's pretty... Oh, Aero Urexoid just got held up massively by that lap car right as we cut away. That might have just put Ray Dominguez back in the fight for this win. That was David Morse in the 21. That's killed Aero Urexoid's lead.
Well, we will get 2 more laps as well. The full 22 to be complete. And it's not just Dominguez, it's Smogor as well. 1 moment of traffic. It will give and it will take. For Errol Urexoid, does it take away the chance of victory? Dominguez is right there. Don't think he'll be close enough into turn 1 this time by, but you do not want to be leading out of that final corner for the penultimate time, if you ask me.
Urexoid blocks to the inside. Dominguez was definitely close enough. Didn't go to the inside, though. He's going to try and go for a massive switchback here at turn 1. Not able to do it. Not able to get that BMW turned, though. But suddenly, a race that looked completely comfortable for Errol Urexoid. One little thing, and it all comes apart with David Morse. Dominguez has to stick with him, though. He's got a whole lap and 1 more to stick with him. We know that BMW's quick in a straight line if he can wait until the front straight, but he's got to make sure not to waste his chances too early.
And just a reminder as well, I said it, but I do think you want to be 2nd or 3rd in line out of the final corner, coming to the final lap, given how prevalent draft will be. Behind them as well, Jared Keane will hold off the charge of Christopher Rines, Eric Kulaga, and Pete Mejia, even after he went off the track. That's what we were cutting to slightly earlier, through the final sector for the penultimate time, and I'm sure Errol Urexoid has never been as nervous as he is right now.
You got to make sure not to let those nerves get into you. I'm sure he is very, very sweaty right now. But he did just have a great exit there out of one of the penultimate corners. It's all going to come down to this, though. How good of an exit can he get onto the front straight? How good of an exit out of the final corner can Dominguez get? It's not the best exit in the world for Dominguez, but he is within 6/10. Even with the decreased draft in these GT3 cars, he's going to have a great run into turn 1. He's got to find a way to get to the inside, though. He's going to have a chance into turn 1. Urexo's got to defend for his life.
I think Steven Martinez and Matt Arnold have tangled on this final laps of the race, but white flag in the air. It comes down to 1 final trip around Fuji, and Dominguez, after showing the nose around the outside a lap ago, not close enough this time to make the move. And is that the final opportunity? Has Errol Urexoy held off the pressure to grab his first PRL victory?
I'm surprised Dominguez didn't try to spook him into turn 1 and send a little bit of a dummy dive there. But maybe he thinks better of his abilities in some of the later quarters of this lap, trying to put the pressure on, maybe into the final sector, force him into a little bit of a bobble of the Dunlop curve, maybe, into the hairpin. He's very late in the brakes. He's very close. But Urexoy basically just needs to keep it on the track right now. If he can hold it in the middle of the track, not make any mistakes, it's almost impossible for Dominguez to pass.
If there is a mistake through the final corner, though, and Dominguez isn't too close, he could try and get the whole shot effectively to the line, a drag race, because the line is a ways away. But it's these final corners that Errol Urexoy has got to tiptoe that Porsche through as safely as he can.
Last 2 corners here. Urexoy on the inside taking a tight line. Dominguez taking a wide line. I think that's a safe gap here. Urexoy, one more corner for him. It almost came undone with that lapped car, but he's kept calm under pressure, and he's finally going to get that first win.
He extends the margin out of the final corner as well. It might be a drag race between Ray Dominguez and Evan Smogor for second, but the light flash for Errol Urexoy. Finally a winner in the Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed Series. I think Ray Dominguez may have ran out of fuel. Evan Smogor will grab second through all of that. Dominguez will settle for a podium. Jared Keane may be another one to run out of fuel on the final lap of the race. My days, Errol Urexoy, take a bow.
Finally, that's all you can say. That's all I can say. That's all he can say. So many chances, a couple of them squandered by mistake, some of them squandered by strategy, but it's finally all gone right for Errol Urexoy. He was the guy who we circled to be the championship favorite this season. Thought maybe the pressure got to him last week. He's proven this week the pressure's not getting to him, and he's finally got that first win in the books. He's going to be very, very difficult to beat for the next 8 weeks now.
Wait for the rest of the cars to streak across the line, and I get the sense it's going to be a rather jubilant Errol Urexoy that we chat to down in Victory Lane in just a few moments' time, and looking forward to a conversation as well with Evan Smogor, Ray Dominguez, about what was a rather fascinating final couple of laps. Just waiting for Waldo Walden, Baron Hilton, Rodrigo Morales, and then Jacob Darling to finish up the proceedings here with 38 starters. 27 will end up being scored on the leading lap, and a couple of them had their own little fights all the way to the line. Let's grab a look at the unofficial race results here at the Fuji International Raceway, of course, with that chicane being removed. Didn't hamper the racing by any means. If anything, made it that much more treacherous for drivers to figure out. Urexoy finally breaks the duck, his very first victory, and it comes with a fight. Smogor second beats Ray Dominguez, who runs out of fuel on his way to the checkered flag. But Greg Doucette fourth in front of Sully saw, 2 drivers that were able to stretch their legs in the final stages. Christopher Rhines in front of Eric Kulaga, and by only about 800ths of a second, Pete Mejia, and then John Jones and Chad Dick, the rest of your top 10. Even with the BOP adjustment, courtesy of the team at iRacing, Porsche is still supreme. Roy Brown, Jared Keane 11th and 12th, with Carollo, Chandler, Arnold, Hamilton, Mulholland, Martinez, Sumner, and Venaro completing the top 20. All those cars left on the leading lap, as were Corey Precker, Glenn Banco, Josh Kimball, Waldo Walden, Baron Hilton, Rodrigo Morales, as well as Jacob Darling. David Morse, as well as Jason Bridges, scored 1 lap down. Dale Peterson classified 3 laps down in 30th position. And the names keep on coming. Steve Bammer, Nicholas Carangis, Michael Kulaga, Matt Dinsmore, Angelo Veloz, Nathan Miller, Felix Felice, and then Chance Chet round out the field of 38. And so, we make our way into some post-race coverage where, hopefully standing by with a jubilant Errol Urexoy, Joey Tebbin gets ready to chat with our podium.
Indeed we are. Errol, you said last week when we talked to you, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, but you're finally the bride now. Congratulations. How does it feel to finally get it done?
Oh man, that was a tough one. That was a tough one. Ray was keeping me honest there, and then that traffic at the end, I just caught it at just the worst possible time. Keeping the tires underneath the car was just a struggle. Pit stops, I got the pit stop nailed, so I checked all the boxes today. I'm feeling pretty good.
So how were you feeling when that incident happened, when you saw the lapped car in front of you? Could he have done more to let you by, or was it just unfortunate, and how did that impact you in the final couple laps?
Yeah, I think it was just a bad place and bad timing. He tried to get out of my way in that little chicane hilly thing. I don't know what numbers those are, but kind of stayed in my way until I got out of there. And I think it cost me about a second to Ray, and I was really sweating then. So, yeah.
Well, Errol, you've broken the duck. Finally got that first PRL win on the board. Congratulations, and we'll see you next week at Aragon.
All right, thanks, guys. 2 weeks, Aragon.
Indeed. 2 weeks. He's right. Thank you for correcting me. 4th of July coming up next week, so we do have that 1 week break. No break until we get to talk to our second place driver, though. Evan Smoger is here. Second place of the line with Ray Dominguez running out, but you were kind of the third gun in that fight. What were you thinking in those final couple laps when Dominguez and Smoger were going at it? Do you think you have a shot?
Oh, Smoger was going at it. I'll tell you that. I saw there's a couple times where I thought, hey, maybe I got a shot at this thing. And then I think I was shocked to see Ray run out of fuel or something. I'm assuming that's what happened. But tried the undercut, but that didn't really work. But you got to try everything.
You do have to try everything. What were you thinking coming in early? Were you searching for an open piece of track there to try and undercut him with some qualifying laps? What was the thought process coming into this?
Yeah. Just looking for some open track, and I just thought there might have been some, and I did get some, just didn't have the pace. But I'm happy with P2.
Well, Evan, congrats on P2. I won't call you Aero Urexo. I won't mix your two names up, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at the new track.
All right, man, take it easy.
That was Evan Smoger, not Aero Urexo. Both of their names start with E. It's easy to say the wrong name there, but we got one more driver. It's the guy who had a chance at the win. Ray Dominguez, third place, is here with us. First and foremost, Ray, ran out of fuel at the line. How close was it to make it?
It was maybe 1 liter. I was off. We just made a mistake on the stop, and we got it 15 even when we should have gotten 15.6 liter to finish the race. So yeah, pretty much ran out of fuel at about 500 feet off the finish line.
Still P3 though. That's got to feel pretty good. And I do have to ask you. We know you're very, very excited about that background. What even is that? Is that a safari? Is that a track day? Where are you there in the virtual world?
Okay, I think I am covering the whole thing. If you look at it now, which way am I going? It's actually the cockpit of a BMW M4 GT3 race car.
Oh, it's more relevant than I thought.
Yes, it is. It's just I'm just covering the seats and you don't see the logos. But that's what it is.
Well, Ray Dominguez, that's what we call corporate synergy there. Third place in the track and representing BMW in the virtual world. Ray Dominguez coming home on the podium, Arjuna. And those were 3 very happy drivers there. But, of course, nobody happier than Aero Urexo. He finally got it done after 3 seasons. It's amazing. I can't stop repeating it.
I like Break the Duck because we're bringing some cricket terminology into this world of motorsport, and I will never say no to that. You were rightly corrected, by the way, because we're not racing next week.
Correct.
July 4th, it's time for Americans to celebrate Independence Day and to spend some time with their friends and loved ones. So we'll take the week off and we'll return at a brand new facility. We went from a track where drivers had plenty of experience to one where drivers had a medium amount of experience, and now to one where they have absolutely none of it.
And I've got to work on my pronunciation here, because do you go for the Americanized Aragon? Do you go for the full Spanish Aragon? I don't know. I got to find a happy medium between there. But either way, it is a very interesting track. I've got the chance to drive it a couple times since it was released. It is another Grade 1 track. It's actually similar to Fuji in quite a few ways, but I think we're going to see another fantastic race there and even more fuel saving with some of those very long straights.
I've heard that track limits can be interesting at places.
I mean, they always are with tracks with asphalt runoff, and that is a place with a lot of asphalt runoff. It's a motorcycle track, so of course there's a lot of places for riders to slide, and there's a lot of places for drivers to abuse parts of the track that aren't the track.
Well, I mean, you give drivers an inch, they'll take a yard. I mean, you give them a yard, they'll take a mile. Isn't that something that I'm sure was said at some point or another? But that's in the future. We can think about our trip over to sunny Spain in 2 weeks' time. But for now, let's make our way back over to Fuji. Say goodbye to the GT3 Fix Series. Say hello to the GT3 Sprint drivers. They get the ability to dial their cars in just that little bit more, to get some adjustment to maybe save them from the perils of what's already proven to be a rather treacherous combination. 35 minutes becomes 40. Add a little bit more in terms of numbers to the mix, and boy, do you get a recipe for chaos. It's the identical schedule that we talk about with the GT3 fix, so there's not many surprises as we take a look at the schedule for these drivers once again. Aragon in 2 weeks' time before we make our way over to VIR, Spa, Zolder, Road Atlanta, Barcelona, and the better version of Barcelona with the double right-hander at the end of the lap rather than the chicane, Circuit de la Sarthe, and then Phillip Island to crown a champion. And Phillip Island's an interesting one, Joey, because I really like this single point that the PRL introduces. 10-round championship. Score as well as you can in the first 9 rounds. If you have one bad round amongst them, you can drop it from the championship score. Final round of the season, though, you better show up and you better deliver.
Exactly. It's kept things very, very interesting over the years, especially on the NASCAR side in the final rounds. We've had some great championship finales, and judging by how close the field's been in the GT3 Sprint Series over the past couple years, we're going to have a very interesting finale here as well. Remember back to last season, what was it, 1-2 points between Acosta and Romero and Malagon? It all came down to the final round. It could very well do the same thing this season.
Oh, and Phillip Island with its undulation as well is going to be such an interesting challenge, and we talk about lack of runoff at tracks. No runoff. Absolutely none of it. Again, championship standings are as they finished at the end of week number 1. Michael Diaz, Alessandro Torchio, and Beckham Jasir, the top 3. But what did we talk about throughout the entirety of Season 2 this year, Joey? The fact that winning races wasn't good enough. You had to be consistent, and Abner Acosta on his way to the championship didn't pick up a victory until the very end of the season.
Now, there is something slightly confusing about these championship results, and I'll explain that. You might remember last week, Boris Ovando won the race, but he doesn't lead the championship. That's because he took a 10-point penalty for causing contact. Remember, he got into an incident at Watkins Glen before he won that race. He turned another driver around. So he may be the inaugural race winner of the season, not the championship leader of the season. You've got to be careful because you can be fast, but if you're losing all your points getting penalties, that is how you lose a championship. So some of those cleaner drivers, they're going to start thinking, hey, those 10 points are a pretty good buffer right now.
Well, and I got a question for you, Joe. We talked about car changes for the GT3 fixed drivers. What are we looking at for the GT3 sprint drivers?
I don't know if there's been very many. I'm going to check over here. Jay Steffi has switched from the Porsche back to the Ford.
Love it.
I'm very happy about that. And David Mendonça has changed from the Porsche back to the BMW, but I believe those are the only 2 changes.
Interesting. So Porsche gets brought back a little bit in terms of speed. Drivers not really scrambling away from it in too quicker order. Team Championship, again, not much that can really be drawn from it because we are so early in the season. I think the only thing to talk about as Precision Racing Esports Purple lead by 16 points over the Advanced Motorsports group is that Nick and Ted's excellent adventure suddenly starting to have some luck now that they've shed the label of being the Joey Tebben fan club.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic because they've shed me in this series, but then in the Xfinity series, the 2 of them have added me, and we sit P3 in the Xfinity series standings. So
interesting.
Clearly, I should not have been a part of the equation in GT3. I needed to be a part of the equation on the NASCAR side. That's the luck they needed.
Yes, but you're only 1 round into your Xfinity adventure as well, Joey, so don't take any conclusions out of that.
Yeah, it's going to fall apart tomorrow at Chicago. I know that much.
Oh boy, you're going to Chicago. Let's get into that in just a few moments' time. Quick just look, though, at some of these teams, because SimCity Racing, one that I will point out as bringing numbers to start this season off, Joey, even if Watkins Glen was not necessarily too kind to them.
It was not kind to them at all. They're kind of like McLaren in IndyCar. They're hiring all of the other people's drivers. They took Arnaud Genet, they took Ryan Pucktel, they brought him into the fray, and they just have an absolute super team full of drivers, and they've got 6 of them. They've got a very, very wide spread.
I was going to question if your analogy went as far to say they had a team full of great drivers, but no wins to go alongside it.
I mean, that is true so far. I have a feeling that'll change, but I don't know. Maybe they'll have to hire Alex Palou for next season.
Let me gather my thoughts for a second. We are in qualifying, by the way. This is another 20-minute open session. Drivers can use the draft once again to try and figure things out. It's Dominic Olivier that currently has sat himself at the top. Vincent Trepanier, Carl Modoff, 2nd, 3rd. Emmanuel Santos, Beckham Jasir, 4th and 5th. With Abner Acosta once again down the order in qualifying and having plenty of work to do. You did say that Precision Racing Esports Joey had promised us that they'd make things a little bit easier, so let's try and figure out if we can see what they've done for us.
Let's see. There's Abner coming by. I don't think anything's been done there. And also, that's not Abner. That's a different car. But
that was Dominic Olivier, by the way.
Yeah, that proves my point there. You can't tell them apart. You just got to know the number. But that's Abner with the yellow. They have done it. There we go. That's positive.
I mean, it's a start. Who's that behind that? That's a Unit Simsport car. Have they just made the side of the car look like a Unit Simsport car?
Sort of, but it definitely helps because in the PRL we associate Abner Acosta with like the iconic yellow car that he's driven for private label Team Hype and Precision Racing Esports. He's almost taken his teammate with him in the runoff there. But there's a baby step. There's still a bunch of cars that look exactly the same though. Gonsalves and Olivier are the same.
Yeah, that I mean, what exactly did they message you to say?
Jeff Evans says we complained loud enough. Bartley's got a different color. Acosta clearly has a different color. We're going to have to look at Diaz and Ovando. There's a lot of PRE drivers.
Oh, look at
that's
that.
Different.
Okay,
Miguel Angel Fonseca. You can always tell what his car is.
No, that is Miguel Angel Fonseca. That's not even who I was trying to click on. You see the beauties of iRacing broadcasting. There's Michael Diaz. That's the livery I was trying to click on.
No, it's the same.
Now, can we go back to Miguel Angel Fonseca's? Yes, please. I do love myself a little bit of cultural immersion, right? And so I guess it's only fitting that in the one Japanese race of the year that we get some anime on the side of the car.
Does that say Death Note on the nose there? Is that what this is a reference to?
I think so. I'm not enough into anime to know, to be completely honest, as Fonseca's going to hit the wall. That's not a Death Note for qualifying, I hope.
Still got 3 minutes to go. I did see what you do there. I can't even conjugate my words anymore. But he's got 3 minutes to go. He can get back out and do one more lap. I saw a car with green number boards there right ahead of Vincent Trepanier, so that's going to be helpful.
No, it's not, because throw them under the bus. That's IMSA number plates.
Those are IMSA number plates. You're right. But Vincent Trepanier is a driver in need of a comeback because his season did not start off very well. Got into an incident. I believe it was Boris Ovando who got into him and turned him around at Watkins Glen. So he's already got to start making up points. He's already basically used his drop week with a 10th place. This is a guy who's used to winning 7-8 races a season.
And look how close the field is. Yes, Olivier is, what, a 10th and a half clear of Simon Theriault, then another 10th back to Trepanier, but then you've got Karl Modoff, 5,000ths back. Acosta, who's been able to get into the top 5, 200ths back. Another half a 10th, another 10th, another 100th, excuse me. The margins are so tight, and we are running out of time in qualifying, most importantly, for these drivers to be able to punch in lap times. When the checkered flag flies, they can finish the lap that they're on, and so these are drivers that will come to the line and maybe get 2 more laps. Scott Rister crosses to start what will be his penultimate lap.
Yeah, Scott, I believe it's Reister. I got to check the
R-I-S-T-E-R?
we got our pronunciation book. Let's see, because he did fill it out, thankfully. So let's scroll up here. Reister. I might have to Command F in a couple of moments here.
Okay.
But he's doing a pretty good job either way. There it is. Reister from Texas. Reister. Scott Reister.
And that's why you submit your names, because we don't know unless you tell us. I was doing a broadcast yesterday, commentating on this driver for 2.5 years or something, and he's never complained about how I said his name. His teammate was in the chat, was not very happy about how we were saying his name.
You want to say who it was?
No, I do not.
Understandable. I also heard from, after last week's broadcast, Karl Modoff, who's currently P4, one of the guys who's going to be a favorite for the championship. He was once a driving instructor at one of those Las Vegas supercar experience places. He's since moved to Southern Oregon. He doesn't do that anymore. That's a past experience for him. But I say once a high-performance driving instructor, always a high-performance driving instructor.
I agree, and you come to the line, see if he finds an improvement. He's got a helmet behind him as well. 137, no, so he's definitely going for a final attempt, I should say. Look at the focus on his face as well. He's got the wheel quite upright. I'm intrigued by this driving position.
It looks like Tyler Reddick.
He does!
Why does everybody in this series look like somebody else?
You just can't not see it. I think that's half the problem.
I think that's true. I'm getting too many connections. I got to go on Only Connect.
Gonsalves up to second is done for the session, by the way. Dominic Olivier is swinging through the back half of the lap, trying to re-establish a full 10th of a second separation to the rest of the field, but I don't necessarily think we're expecting a challenge to him for pole position. I think it's going to be more about where they cycle in behind, given how important that's going to be. We saw that John Jones was able to work his way up through the field, but at some point you run out of time.
Dominic Olivier's been around for a while in the PRL. He has won a race in this series, won at Spa a couple of seasons ago. I believe beat Sean Campbell when he did that. That was a crazy race. Representing St. Vincent and the Grenadines also, one of the international drivers in the field. Lives in America now, but still representing that home country. He's going to bring it to the line, see if he can dunk on the field a little bit and improve on a 134.4. Doesn't look promising yet. No, it's going to be a 134.6, which I think would still be good enough for pole if my memory serves me right.
Vincent Trepigny did not improve either, if you are curious. Is Abner Acosta going to practice a pit entry? No, he's going to run to the line. So our defending series champion, 34.75 is best. He matches it! Look at that!
Mr. Consistency, the tire wizard. I learned it firsthand, and if he can keep that going in the race, he might be starting P6, but he's going to be doing pretty well in the race. Patrick Fogel across the line. He does find some time, 3/10. Not quite enough to jump up from P30, though. He's going to stay there with Jeff Evans' number. Scott Reister, 10,000ths off.
Look at these final times. Michael Terrafino brings the Team Beef BMW towards the lane. And, of course, don't forget, if you're curious, the wire is intentionally left on the car there. Finally trip over my words enough. Boris Avando gets the double toe to the line. Will be good enough to see him grab 2/10, which, given how close the field is, rockets him up more than 10 positions to 7th.
And knowing Boris, he's a guy who can make passes. He's a guy who can get aggressive. P7 is not going to be a death sentence to the possibility of him winning this race. Marc-Andre Desjardins needs some pace here. He's had some great qualifying performances in the past. Unfortunately, this is not going to be one of them. He jumps his teammate, Philippe Magnan. Cannot jump any higher. Here's his former teammate, Vincent Trepigny. I think this is going to be the last legitimate driver with a shot at pole. It looks like he's already backing off before the line, though.
At least he's not paying attention to where he's going. That's not safe driving.
Maybe he's got a second monitor over there.
Probably, because people put fourth monitors in all different type of spots, and that's actually really wonderful timing, because just on cue, qualifying draws to a close and the drivers get ready to get gridded for that short formation lap before we'll go racing for round 2 of 2023 Season 3. Oh boy, what a stacked field we've got in store. Our champion is back up in contention in qualifying, and it comes down to a 40-minute battle here at the Fuji International Raceway. Let's run you down through how they'll line up for the second race of the evening. It is going to be Dominic Olivier that will bring us to the green. It's a Precision Racing Esports black affair, though, on the front row, with 1/10 splitting Gonzalez from his teammate. Simon Theriault is accompanied by his Advanced Motorsports counterpart Vincent Trepigny, as there will be a bit of a team battle towards the front. Karl Modov alongside Abner Acosta, our defending champion, on row number 3. Boris Avando is in 7th spot. He's got Emmanuel Santos in the yellow, green and blue 114 for company. Martin Crisp sees Sean Dickinson in the first couple of SimCity Racing color bombs, 9th and 10th positions. Beckham Jasir 11th. Arnaud Genet 12th. So you've got blue, green and purple already from SimCity Racing, and it will just continue later on. Michael Diaz 13th, Juan Malagon 14th. Ron Puctel in the orange is 15th. Fernando Yaquez for CRT is 16th. Gonzalo Cortez represents FAF Motorsports plaid in 17th, but he's got the local livery of Miguel Angel Fonseca, a former AM champion in this series. Scott Kimbrough and then Alessandro Torchio for Empire Racing and Hunkos Hollinger Esports complete your top 20, with Ted Lowendick in the Nick and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Plenty of adventuring to do from 21st. Ryan O'Connor in what may be an underground workshop, might also be a bridge of some kind, is in 22nd. Michael Terrafino is 23rd. Scott Reister is in 24th position, rolling from 25th. Matt Scherf and his fan club alongside with Joshua Spears. Still plenty to roll through in terms of names. David Mendoza, Nicholas Johnston, Ethan Bass, Patrick Fogel. That's your top 30. Behind them, Philip Magnan, Marc-Andre Desjardins, and that's just 1.1 second. That splits the top 32. Justin Delano, Kwok Nin, Noah Anderson, Kevin Simpson, the top 34, top 36, excuse me, with Alexandra Breton, RD Mercedes, Nick McLaughlin, Corey Hogan, and Nico Sanidakis. Jay Steffi back in the Ford, and then Will Kofi, Faris Nasser, and then Keaton Marchesi rounding out our field of 45 that is already rolling. Quick look at the webcams as well, because look at those faces getting ready to roll, Joey.
Yeah, Corey Precker from the last race still hanging out, still watching. But you got Vincent Trepanier and Ryan O'Connor next to him on the top row. Modoff, Lowendick, and I believe a new face there in the middle right. And then on the bottom, it's some of the old classics of the PRL. You got Kwoknin, Nick McLaughlin, and Arnaud Genet. Everybody going to be giving us some very, very fun reactions. And I'm ready to react to this. We're ready to go.
I'm disappointed you couldn't recognize former AM champion Miguel Angel Fonseca on that middle right, but
he used to be in the dark.
He did also used to be in virtual reality, if I remember correctly. Pace car off and away, and a bit of a gap left by the Precision Racing Esports duo, who I think are going to look to time it here with the Advanced Motorsport Black Stealth machines. Stacked up on row number 2, they've got to coordinate here as we get the green flag out for the GT3 sprint drivers at the Fuji International Raceway. Olivier leads Gonzalez on that run to turn 1. 3, 4, 5 wide. What do we have in store? Into the braking zone for the very first time. It's 3 wide for 5th position, but the top 4 figure it out amongst the teammates. Down the hill they will slide and into the fast left-hander. Seems as though 45 have gotten through turn 1 safely.
It's looking good so far, but as we go into turn 3, this is where we had some trouble in the last race. Everybody's single filed out back to about 9th. They're still side by side deeper in the field. Look at that bright yellow and green Brazilian Porsche of Emmanuel Santos. He got into big trouble on lap 1 at Watkins Glen last week. He survived week 1.
Safely through the opening couple of corners, but we still tiptoe. Relatively cool tire temperatures to begin with. You've got to get them into a window. Ryan Pucktail runs a little bit wide. He's battling there with Gonzalo Cortez in through this alternate configuration. There's the chicane we'd usually take, but we carry all the speed up in towards the next part of the track. The very final sector, the green SimCity racing car. Looking to get a little bit feisty as behind getting stacked up as well, but single file, once again, not many changes through the field.
No, the driver who started last, or is currently last. The driver who started first is currently in first. It's been a very, very clean lap 1. But now we start thinking about strategy already. Remember how long that pit window was in the previous race. How much longer can you take it in the sprint series with even more cars, with how close it is up front? Basically everybody in the top 7, top 8 is still in this right now. Even Abner Acosta, who, with only 2 spots lost, is one of the biggest losers on lap 1.
Who's going 3 wide further back? Torchio and Kimbrough, I think, the 2 that are initially going to pick up a couple of side-by-side moments. Looked like they are very much squabbling back in the pack as well, but that's kind of what you tend to expect. We saw it earlier as well. Here is the likes of Delano, as well as Philip Magnon. These are 2 drivers you would not expect to be down and outside of the top 30. Once you struggle in qualifying, it's that much harder. Martin Crisplow, not sure what's happened to him.
I don't know if it's a slowdown or a mistake from Martin Crisp, but he is falling down the order at 100R. He's still going to be to the inside of Gonzalo Cortez in that Plaid 11. Cortez squeezes him down, gives him just enough room. Crisp is able to recover, but he's still going to be side by side with Cortez coming down the hill. You don't want to be side by side to turn 10. Crisp is going to back out of this and get back in line for the moment.
Arnaud Genet is up into 12th position, or holds on to the 12th position, I should say. And he's going to have to be careful that he doesn't lose too much ground to those in front. Nico Sanidakis, the only victim of the opening lap. What happened to him?
Oh, a little bit too late in the brakes. Almost gets into the back of Nick McLaughlin in that Ferrari. And just gets looped around by a few of the drivers in the back of the field. Will Coffey, Keaton Marcheski. Just couldn't avoid him there. But here's what happened. Oh my goodness, to Martin Crisp. I think that was Arnaud Genet giving him a little bit of help maybe.
I was going to say, that's a teammate, wasn't it?
That was a teammate, but there's also grass on the outside of that corner, so it could have been another car. It could have been Crisp moving too far to the right, but he is not on... Oh, he was in the grass there. Just went a little bit too far over the curb, got in the rut between the curb and the grass, and almost looped it around. Did well to save it, and Arnaud Genet did well to avoid him.
He did. And so Genet runs 12. Martin Crisp only lost 7th positions from where he started, so fuel window could very much still bring him into this. Unlike what we saw in the Fix Series race, though, we're not really seeing a breakaway of any form right now. I think it partially is just due to the fact that the Fix Series is a bit of a stepping stone. A lot of drivers just getting comfortable with the car, maybe not as consistent lap on lap, and this field is stacked up at the front. We've got drivers no lower than 5,000, 6,000 iRating fighting up inside of the top 10 right now. Doesn't mean there's not fighting further down. Ryan O'Connor has Scott Reister alongside.
Mercedes v Mercedes. Ryan O'Connor also doing a dual program in the PRL this season, coming back to GT3, of course, here in this series, but he's also challenging himself to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Was having a pretty solid run for Precision Racing Esports in that series last week before he kind of got punted by my teammate Ted Lowendick getting slowed down. There's a Mercedes doing a wheelie over one of the curbs back there, and that goes to show you can't hit those sausage curbs very much. They will break that suspension. They will send you up onto two wheels.
It is no longer Precision Racing Esports 1 and 2 as Simon Terrier, jumps in front of Jeremy Gonzalez. But oh my days, what's going on through the final corner? All I see is cars slow. Marc-Andre Desjardins, Kevin Simpson, and they're going so wide. The replay's going to have to tell us more, but there we go into turn 1.
They're getting swallowed up. Vincent Trepanier follows his teammate Simon Theriault through Jeremy Gonsalves. Carl Modoff is going to try and go through as well. Into turn 3 here, you don't want to be on the inside. Gonsalves trying to stay in touch with Modoff. Modoff gives him the room, but the outside of 100R doesn't really work. It's almost a little bit of a cambered corner with the elevation change. Modoff is through. Gonsalves has stopped the bleeding for the moment in P5, but he's got to hold the rhythm to not let Santos get by him.
Still Olivier that leads them, though, and that maybe is the crucial mark to just keep your eye on. Let's see if we can cycle back and figure out what happened here. Marc-Andre Desjardins, I know, was involved for sure, but who else is involved? There's a car that goes off wide, that's the 27. Desjardins spins by himself. Delano takes avoiding action. That doesn't tell us much of the story, though.
Well, Desjardins actually almost got into the back of Matt Scherf, and it did sort of the Porsche thing. If you get extremely hard in the brakes, you hit the rear end of another car, it loops the car around, and then everybody else just trying to avoid the spun car. I think it looked a lot worse when we initially saw it, and then there was a little bit of an argument in the exit of the corner there with, I believe, Desjardins and Corey Hocken driving each other off the road after they had already cleared the incident.
I don't think that's Desjardins. I wonder if that's Philip Magnon, excuse me.
It is Magnon, yeah.
And that's just a racing deal. I want to be clear. That you say argument, that's just two people not realizing that they were already along with one another. Nicholas Johnson had his own little issue, by the way. Let's see what happened to him.
And Nick Johnston into turn 1. He's the Mercedes in the inside. Too late in the brakes. Gets into Scott Reister. And Scott Reister is very, very lucky he didn't get turned around there. Luckily, even with a little bit of contact, was mostly a self-punishing error there from Nick Johnston. And I think there's even more craziness coming into the hairpin here. A little bit of a dive. Same thing. Porsche goes loop-de-loop.
And so Artie Mercedes, I think, was the one with the dive. And then Alexander Breton could not do much to get out of the way. As simple as you like. And that's another little incident. 45 started. 45 still running if you're curious. No retirements so far. Although, commentator's curse, maybe that is on me if something is going to happen. Abner Acosta, our defending champion, back up to 9th position. He's got one spot up. Sean Dickinson trying to poke to the inside.
This is kind of shocking that the highest SimCity racing driver is currently in P10. That's not something we normally say, especially at a Grade 1 track like this. These are the tracks where Sean Dickinson usually shines. We saw him have some insanely dominant drives at Silverstone, Manicourt. He's been great at Hockenheim, but hasn't quite figured this place out. There's an argument for real, though, with Beckham Jasir and Boris Ovando coming off the final corner. They're scraping the paints off the doors of these Porsches. That'll help us differentiate Ovando's car, maybe.
Just a little bit more, to be honest, although the green number plates, I think, help us as well. So we've got not just Ovando trying to get past Jasir, but I think Sean Dickinson might have a bit of a look past Abner Acosta, potentially, and indeed the SimCity Racing car, the bright green machine up the inside. As much as Acosta's going to try and switch it back, I think Dickinson has been able to slow it down in time and does indeed get back up into 9th spot. So you've got Dickinson 9th, Genet 12th, and then Martin Cripps 16th with Ryan Buchtel directly behind. I think that's where the SimCity Racing cars are running right now. You know, one thing that we haven't necessarily had the opportunity to talk about just yet is where is the former Joey Tebben fan club? Where is Nick and Ted's excellent adventures? Why don't we go and dial up one of them? Should we go talk with Mr. Ted Lowendick?
We should. He's usually been the one that's been outrunning the other one this season. But Ted, you were in the top 10 last week. What's going on here? Why is it falling apart already?
Porsche's just really good.
So is it
There's no other
still that
explanation.
good? Even with the BOP adjustment, it's still that good?
Yeah, so it's really good over 1 lap from what everybody says. But in this section coming up, it's really annoying. The Ferrari, not good with the rear stability. It's really good at Watkins. But here, it's not terrible. It's really quick on the front straight. That's about the only thing I got going for me.
So I want you to compare your levels of practice here, because you're doing this, you're going to do Xfinity at Chicago tomorrow with me. Which one have you given more time to?
Oh, I've definitely spent way more time in Chicago than I have in Fuji.
Yes, correct. I just finished my first race there, but here we go. Ted versus Terrafino. Ted, I let you do this before. I'm going to let you commentate this battle here into turn 1, and I hope Terrafino passes you.
Well, the Ferrari go burr down the front straight, so he's got nothing for me there. And then we're going to come into the first corner and try not to lose the rear here. Get on the throttle, save those tires, because we're going to need them at the end of the race. Definitely not adding enough fuel this time to make the tire change in the pit stop.
Can you
Don't
see,
mess
by the
up
way,
this corner.
in your rearview mirror, can you see that Michael Terrafino still has the wireframe turned on?
No.
He claims it's deliberate. I don't know if I
Really?
believe him. That's what you would say if you forgot to turn the wireframe on or turn it off, Arjun. You're like, it's a deliberate choice. I think it was a mistake at first, and he's kind of run with it.
I mean, you got to commit at some point. I must say, I always love the little chats that we have. Interesting tidbit that you got out of Ted, though. They're not going to put enough fuel in this race to need tires.
Yeah, that tends to be the way things happen, and I guess with the long run we saw in that first race, it was only 9.3 seconds in the pits at the end of it for our almost race winner Ray Dominguez, and you cannot put 4 tires on in 9.3 seconds, so you might want to pit in a little bit early, and maybe you could take tires then, but if you're extending this for as long as possible, you don't want to add that extra time in the pits, especially with how close these guys are in the top 4, separated by a second.
And it's not looking good for Dominic Olivier, unless this is Jeremy Gonzalez really playing strategy games, because he is now 2 seconds off of his teammate, has 3 cars in between, not just the advanced motorsport duo. Carl Modoff as well has been able to sneak past and up into the 4th position. Next in line is going to be Emmanuel Santos to have a look. Speaking of have a look, that was Simon Terrio, who definitely had a look for the lead.
I don't know if it was a deliberate look, but it was definitely a look later on the brakes into turn 3. I think we'll learn here, maybe into the hairpin. Is he going to think about a move? No, he's going to back off a little bit more. He knows we got a long way to go in this race. We're barely even 12 minutes in. Still a lot of fuel to be saved, still a lot of strategery to be done. I don't know if this is Olivier backing off and backing up the field, or if this is his full pace and everybody behind him is able to save behind him.
I mean, I shouldn't complain, because this technically is helping me save my voice for tomorrow's iRacing Off-Road Championship Series, but I should let them loose a little. This is the thing that people were complaining about Formula E, but at least Formula E, they were still fighting every lap to not be in the lead. You know what I mean? Important if people miss what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely watch back that replay if you haven't seen it, because it was... If you've ever put the Formula 1 cars on iRacing on an oval, it kind of looked like that, with everybody packed up, trying to save energy, trying to get the boost at the right time. It was pretty crazy, but this is going to be a true test right now. If Simon Terrio wants to take the lead, he's got a huge draft down the front straight here. He's catching into the back of Olivier. He's got the slipstream. But is he going to back off here in the braking zone, or is he going to peek a nose to the inside? He's going to back off early. He's going to save some more fuel.
Technically, this queue goes all the way back to 20th position, I will just point out. There is not really a major margin between any of the drivers inside the top 20 for the time being. And as we near on half distance, just a reminder, if you're a regular Tuesday night viewer of the PRL GT3 coverage, next week we are off for the 4th of July here in the US, and so... Joey, what are you going to do on your 4th of July? I'm guessing that you have some responsibilities that weekend since there is motorsport going on.
I do have the day off, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
4th off?
I do. I don't know what I'm going to do during the day. I got to figure something out here. Stamford, Connecticut, there will probably be something going on. I think Lil Jon is coming to Stamford for a free concert. I don't know if I'm going to go to that. What do you mean, who's Lil Jon?
Oh, Lil Jon. Sorry, I thought you said Will John.
No, I did not say Will Jon.
Just I'm hearing engine noises. I much prefer listening to them. As much as I enjoy you, Joey, can you...
Will John sounds like a rejected race spot owner.
What he really sounds like is like some country singer.
Will John.
My name's Will John.
I don't know. Maybe I'll go over to the park and see Lil John.
Well, here we go. Yeah. Say that again, because boy, are we going to start snaking back and forth? Looks like it.
Fortunately, Dominic Olivier's name doesn't start with an S, so we can't say it's the snake or something like that, but it is the Olivier snake, swishing and swerving and doing all those things. Thierry to the outside, just a little bit of a peek. He's getting closer and closer, but still not really showing any intention of taking the lead here. And in the process, look who's coming closer. Gonçalves is coming closer. Santos is getting closer. Everybody back to Acosta is in the train right now, fully.
Ryan Pucktel is going to drop behind Fernando Yaquez and Alessandro Torchio. 2 positions, 1 corner. Can be quite easy to lose out like that. There's the 26 of Yaquez. I do like the new CRT livery, although the previous ones were maybe a little bit more colorful and distinguishable.
Yeah, I was going to say, where'd the purple go? They're very professional. I think they look good, but I do miss the purple. They were very differentiable. Now it kind of looks like many other cars, but the Seabao racing team still here in the PRL. Seabao. I don't know what Seabao means, but that's what it stands for.
Are we saying it right?
I believe so. Seabao. It's not Italian, so it's not Chibao.
That's the thing. So I just wanted
Alessandro
to make sure.
here is Italian, though, so it's not Torchio. It is Torchio.
Oh, it is? Okay, so you haven't corrected me on that, and I'm glad that you've done that now.
Yes.
Torchio. I'm sure I'll get that wrong a billion times before I get it right. He's in a rather lovely Junkers Hollinger esports machine, but as much as we would love to talk about liveries, Beckham Jasir wants to say, look at me, look at me. He's passed Emmanuel Santos and up to 6th.
Beckham, definitely an aggressive driver as well. We learned that in his first season in the PRL last season in GT4s and GT3s. He is moving forward. There's a wreck in the back of the final corner. I didn't see who it is. I think it's Scott Reister. You can see it all the way back there, a kilometer back.
It was Scott Reister, but Carl Modolf, Vincent Trepanier trying to figure it out amongst themselves. Michael Diaz and Abner Acosta trying not to trip over each other because they don't want to lose too much time, because now it's almost 1.5 seconds. Abner Acosta starting to struggle a little bit more on the longer run. Someone that we dubbed the Tire Wizard. He's lost ground to Sean Dickinson.
I do wonder, is he struggling in the long run, or is he still in save mode after, and maybe he'll start touching things after 20 minutes are up. I don't know, but here's what happened in the final corner. That's Scott Reister, Ethan Bass behind him. Oh no, Ethan Bass in the Ford gives Reister a little bit of a bonk and loops him around. Luckily, neither of them hit the curb, so neither of them are going to be too heavily damaged there, but Bass on the brakes coming through.
You know what the problem was? Ethan Bass had his hand off the wheel to use that manual gear shifter that you can see.
Maybe he was distracted.
Yeah, no, this is the this is why race cars now have, paddle shifters. I'm just throwing the Ford under the bus. Eventually, that Ford is going to be deprecated. I use that word as a software engineer. Legacied on iRacing. Good. And then we can say hello to the Ford Mustang, Joey.
I don't want it to be deprecated.
You do.
I want to circle back to the Ford and have synergy and send it as a deliverable. I want all the corporate buzzwords to be with the Ford.
We need to get rid of that fake GT3 car. That's what we need to do. I know it's not a fake GT3 car. Before people get angry at me, I'm just teasing the Ford lovers because they get very easily riled up.
I'm just sad it had top 10 speed last week at Watkins Glen, and unfortunately it seems to be back to its old ways at Fuji.
And that's after the Porsche got bopped a little bit. Bopped-wopped, as you would say.
Yeah. Bad luck, but Ethan's not going to give up. I hope he's not going to give up. He's got a buddy in Jay Steffi. He's got 2 Ford friends now. Nick McLaughlin kicking off the pit cycle, though, going off strategy after a bad start. Well, guess who's here? Nick McLaughlin, what's going on? Is this a drive-through or is this strategy?
No, it was supposed to be strategy, but I sped.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. We didn't see you coming in the first place. Oh, dearie me. And it's a long pit lane here, isn't it?
It's quite long, and with a 40-second sit-around, it just feels that much longer.
Well, I'm going to ask you for a preview of tomorrow while you're here. It's Chicago. We know you, me, Ted, everybody's been practicing. You've been showing some good speed. How do you think you're going to do tomorrow?
Hopefully better than today, because I put a lot more practice for tomorrow's race.
That's the same thing Ted said. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a replay of you speeding here. Big speed. I mean, it wasn't bad. You tried to get it slowed down at least.
I did. I only came in like 30K over the limit.
Oh, that's also something I learned, Arjuna. But we are back to the lead here. There's a big battle, but Nick McLaughlin still uses kilometers on the oval side. That's always tough.
Good. As you should. I mean, correct units are being used by Nick McLaughlin, so I believe that he will very much show up on the streets of Chicago with some more luck than he has here today. Karl Modoff, that's going to be a send.
Whoa.
He wasn't a day late and $1 short, to be fair. He was calculated with slowing the braking phase at the very final portion of it. Trepigny saw him coming, though, and great respect shown. They just about figure it out.
And both of these guys are very, very smart. There's almost 40 wins in the PRL between them. They know that if they spend too much time fighting for third, they're going to lose the lead. Santos and Dickinson running off track simultaneously there. Both kind of made the same mistake. Both of them have to be careful not to get a slowdown there. Dickinson tries to send a shot back, can't get to the inside. But these guys are slowing themselves down. They are losing Beckham Jasir in the top 6.
Yep, and this is where those breakaways form, and it's right as you enter into the pit stop window as well, when drivers know they've got to make moves.
Ooh.
And speaking of moves, 3 wide, and Ron Pucktail doesn't actually get any contact, but comes off very much worse for wear.
That was definitely target fixation. That was a great save there for Fernando Jaquez, actually, not to get completely turned around there. But Jaquez makes contact with Torquio, saves it coming into the corner, and then Pucktail sees a car there and just kind of freaks out a little bit. He didn't even freak out a little bit, just a little bit of a minor adjustment of the brake or the throttle after seeing a car in front of him, and that loops the car around.
If you were curious, by the way, Cibao is the center of the city of the Santiago Dominican Republic, so that's pretty cool. I like that.
Thank you, Jeffrey Castillo, for coming into the chat there. I knew they were a Dominican team. Another part of that internationality in the PRL.
That's a good pit entry there from Sean Dickinson. Don't think there's too many concerns about him maybe speeding there. Let's check in through the field, though, because as always, we get the face cams with a whole bunch of drivers, including Kwok Nin, who's in virtual reality. He's rocking the guns as well. He's on the back of Patrick Vogel.
Yeah, haven't talked much about Kwok so far in the race, but that's generally how things go. He's a quiet driver, makes moves when he can, stays out of trouble generally, and that is a textbook overtake there on Fogel into turn 1. Fogel's going to try and go for a switchback, though. Kwok is going to have the inside coming into turn 3, and Fogel is not going to be able to fight that back for the moment. There goes Kwok in the T-Rex car up into P25, I believe. 26, close
26.
enough.
I was like, the graphic on screen should update for a second, but I was thinking we were in the wrong simulator. Let's go say hello as well to the man that you did not recognize, and I'm going to throw you under the bus for that. Although, again, he used to be in the dark, he used to be in virtual reality. This is a very different angle.
I only saw half of his face before, and this is a very interesting camera. It's like he's used the skew tool in PowerPoint to adjust the window of the camera. I don't even know how that's possible.
Maybe it's a phone in portrait mode. I think that's probably where it starts.
It's like we're watching him in a movie theater.
I was just watching Batman v Superman, and it switches between 3 versus 2 and 16 by 9, and it's weird. Oh, it's not
I saw
16
Wes
by
Anderson's
9, but you know what I
Asteroid
mean.
City. Asteroid City, Wes Anderson did the same thing. Saw that the other day. It's I mean, the movie makers, they like to do that.
They do like their little tricks. As Scott Kimbrough becomes the next to dive down to pit lane, let's jump on board with another one of our Porsches. Arnaud Genet, lead driver steward of the PRL, as ever has that rim from a Porsche behind. I haven't managed to figure out which specific rim from a Porsche it is, but just outside the top 10.
Lead driver steward and lead driver of SimCity Racing right now, so he's outperforming all of his teammates. Sean Dickinson has come down pit lane, though, so that's one driver who would be ahead of Arnaud right now. But for the moment, with his new team that he's just joined, he's holding down the fort.
He is absolutely. Michael Terrafino, what's happened to him? He's going to get tagged from behind. Is that... I'm not sure who that was, but they take avoiding action, that's for sure.
I think that may have been Anderson. I think he was around there. Or actually, Josh Spears in the 844. There's kind of an argument into turn 1. Ted Lowendick, Nick McLaughlin, Terrafino just kind of all deciding they want to take different lines through turn 1, and it just kind of met in the middle with Spears and Terrafino, and 4 different drivers just not really knowing what to do into turn 1.
So Sean Dickinson has not come out in clean air, by the way, so that has not necessarily worked out for him, alongside with Nicholas Johnston in that Mercedes number 28. Lots of work for him to do, and it's slowly beginning to build into a 4-car runaway now, because Jeremy Gonzalez will be the next to dive down to pit lane in his Precision Racing Esports number 74.
That's a split strategy in the team, but I guess we shouldn't really be surprised with 9 cars or however many they have. There's obviously going to be some split strategy within Precision Racing Esports, but Gonsalves comes in, Malagon for CRT comes in. We're seeing the same wide pit window, but here's one of Malagon's teammates looping it around at turn 10. So easy to do. Clip the curb, clip the grass. Can't do it at a high-speed corner like that.
I think Fernando Yaquez took a toe back to pit lane instead of trying to bring it back himself, so it might be day done for him. But out of the 45 that started, 43 still out there and running. Big pit window we saw earlier, like Joey mentions. 15 minutes left to go. We'd expect drivers to potentially be able to get maybe 5 more minutes out of the car if they've been saving the fuel. Definitely not if you're Dominic Olivier that's been punching the hole in the air.
I mean, Dominic is known for fuel saving. I remember back a couple seasons when he did the PRL NASCAR Xfinity Series, he did a 0 stop in a 50-minute race at Spa.
That's crazy.
He did have to jump the bus stop chicane in the final lap to make it, and he got disqualified for that, but he was feet away from doing a 0 stop.
Was he going to win the race in doing that as well?
I think he was like 5th or something. It didn't pay off speed-wise. I think he had gained some positions. Oh dear, Lamborghini around. I think that's Simpson.
It is indeed. Bright orange on the back, white at the front. And that's down at 100R. No stop race, excuse me, at Spa. That is impressive.
I'm actually wondering if that's going to be possible at Chicago tomorrow, because it's such a low-speed track. The tire fall-off is so big, but this wasn't tire fall-off looping it around in the hairpin. That was a send to the inside. Was that Gonsalves?
I mean, we can't tell because...
we can't tell.
You can't read the number on the side of the car. You can't tell from the livery, so no clue. A Precision Racing Esports car.
I think it may have been him, because he was around there after he pitted, was trying to make his way back up with his ultimate strategy.
I can confirm you were right. It was Gonsalves. But I will say, Gonsalves was there, and maybe Simpson slightly closed the door on himself, all things considered. On to the 17th lap of this race. Who boxes last? I think that's my question. Not who boxes first, who boxes last?
Olivier, I think.
Wow.
I think he's going to be the one, because Trepanier and Modoff, they have the most reason, I think, to come in early, because, well, there's a Unit Sim Sports driver taking themselves out of the way, but those two have the reason to pit in early. They want to get out of traffic, they want to run some laps on their own, maybe jump Theriault and Olivier, but Dominic and Simon Theriault don't really have any reason to come in early.
Oh.
There we go. There's Carl Modoff coming in early. If the other two come in early, that puts them at risk of ending up in traffic.
Yeah, we'll see. And that's an aggressive pit entry from Carl Modoff as well. Is it Simon Theriault or is it Simon Terrier? It's not Terrier, surely.
I think it's Theriault. There used to be a NASCAR driver named, I already forget his first, Austin Theriault.
Okay.
And I think that's just how that sequence of letters is pronounced in French.
No, I did 8 years of high school French. Remember none of it. So
I think if it was A, I don't know. There's O, there's A, there's all sorts of.
So you got Trepanier with A-N-I-E-R. So that's yes, okay.
Yeah.
Live broadcasting, you always figure out a lot of names. Theriault, yes. Kevin Norris confirms. No, Kevin Norris.
Trepanier.
Is Kevin Norris not racing this season, by the way?
He was here last week.
That's what I thought.
He got taken out very early, unfortunately. But I don't know. Maybe he's missing this race.
Yeah, well. Oh, it's good to see drivers popping in to watch their teammates racing out there as well. Missing that chicane once again. Just look at them hop that inside curb as well into that final section of the lap. Right, then left, then right. Seemingly endlessly until you actually get into the final corner out of this penultimate left-hander that the drivers head their way on through. This is where it feels very painful at times. Especially, I'm sure, in the rear-engine Porsche, which you got to be careful not to stamp onto the power too early and get the weight transferring around too quickly on you. They're snaking back and forth again, but I don't think Olivier is committing to pit entry. Kevin Norris says he had to work for this week, so we'll probably see him next week again. That'll be good. John Jones says we should just call him Fred. I'm not opposed to that. Simon Fred.
Simon Fred. Speaking of that NASCAR driver, by the way, I just learned that Austin Theriault, former ARCA champion, is now a member of the Maine House of Representatives.
Wow.
So how careers can change and how races can change for Jay Steffi. One of my favorite Fords into turn 1, trying to avoid a car coming out of the pits, and does a very good job of that. Doesn't do a good job of pointing straight, though.
I was going to say, how many Fords do you know? And then I realized we've got quite a few in this series in particular. Arnaud Genet, Martin Crisp, as well as Michael Diaz have all made their way down to the lane. And with Michael Diaz already off and away, who is rolling that has pitted behind? Who's coming with a head of steam? Gonzalez and Ovando, I think, will end up sailing on through. And so Karl Modhoff actually has inherited what is the net race lead of those that have pitted, and after Gonzalez came in 2 laps earlier than Modhoff, he's found himself 3.5 seconds behind. Modhoff gets past Philippe Magnon. That will aid him in his quest to try this undercut.
Very, very nice move there from Philippe Magnon to back out of it, to not hold off Modhoff. They were fighting for a position there technically, but Magnon knew different strategies, no reason to hold Modhoff up. He's trying to run his own race. So very respectful stuff there from Philippe Magnon, but we're within 10 minutes to go in the race now. If these guys don't come in this time, I will be absolutely shocked. And here they come. We're getting to the hard limit of the fuel tank, but Vincent Trepanier, the fuel master, remember, he did a 0 stop at Long Beach a couple of seasons ago, I believe, so maybe he's another one of our fuel wizards.
He's not no stopping this one, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, probably not, but he's got an extra lap out of it, and that could be all he needs. We know this guy's very quick over 1 lap.
And you know the thing that maybe is even more important, his teammate Simon Theriault will have been behind Dominic Olivier and wouldn't have been able to attack pit entry with the same gusto as we're going to be able to see out of Vincent Trepanier as he makes his way down into the lane. Now up on the jacks for Simon Theriault as well as for Dominic Olivier, so seemingly they think that whatever small benefit that they can get from changing tires is going to be worth it. They're going to be neck and neck though on the race off of pit lane. Olivier still leads though. Margin is clear behind. Modhoff's not necessarily going to blast on through, but he'll join the equation out of turn number 1.
Join the equation, he'll join the occasion. It's going to be a 4-way fight here, but it's been a great stop for Olivier. He's pulled about 8/10 over Theriault. That's some comfort for him, but right now he is just waiting for Vincent Trepanier to come in. Is he about to get jumped in the pits, or can he take the overall race lead back? He's got to hope that Vincent Trepanier isn't going to be able to be that quick. He's in clean air for the first time all race long. He's in qualifying mode for the first time all race long. Olivier's got to do the same.
Look at those pit times on the left. Beckham just here 9.1 seconds amongst the longer stops. We've already seen drivers run out of fuel. Is that going to be a consideration that we're going to see here with this?
He did it last week.
I bring it up for a reason, unfortunately. I'm hoping I'm not seeing the future. There's Trepanier, though, down to the lane. And this is where all he can do is hit his marks. Do not slide through the box. Make sure that you are as straight as possible when you come to a complete stop. And then once you're heading off and away, do not speed until you're out of the lane.
And if you weren't here with us last week, Karl Modhoff was leading into the penultimate corner when he ran out of fuel, let Boris Ovando get through. He doesn't want to do the same thing twice in a row. But there is Vincent Trepanier in the box. Remember, 8.6 seconds for Olivier, 7.2 for Vincent Trepanier. It was a 1:35.8 as well on his previous lap. This could be easily the lead for Trepanier. Here we go into turn 1. They're going to be side by side.
Olivier covers him off as well. Look how defensive he went. Did not want to give him the opportunity. Modhoff was able to slip up the inside of Theriault through turn number 1. But it's Olivier that still leads. 7 minutes and counting left here at Fuji. 4 cars still in the mix. And then almost 4-5 seconds back. These 4 will put on a show for us.
We spent the last 35 minutes shaking up a Coke can, and it's finally been opened. It's spraying everywhere. This is the battle for the lead now. No holds barred, no holding back. Vincent Trepanier, all the wins in the world, 14 wins in the PRL. Dominic Olivier has won just once. Karl Modhoff behind has won 25 times. It's a battle of the Titans for the rest of this race. And don't count out Theriault either.
And I'm just saying, if they do trip over one another, Jasir, Ovando, 6th and 7th positions along with Gonzalez up in 5th could very much suddenly be fighting for a victory. So at the line, I do believe 6 minutes and counting means that we're going to get a good 4 laps to run. Look at Trepignet just being patient out of that final corner, waiting to get onto the throttle and closing immediately. And he's timed that run so well. It'll be side by side once again into turn number 1.
This is the first test of the draft, and also remember, this is an open setup series here in the GT3 Sprint Series. There's differences in straight line speed between the two cars. Some drivers might have a lower downforce setup than the other. Olivier clearly very, very slippery in a straight line. Trepignet not able to close up as much as he wanted. Remember how close he was out of the final corner, and he wasn't even able to get within 1/10 into turn 1. That tells you how close he's going to need to be out of the final corner to make that draft work.
I don't know. I think Trepignet lifted there. Because once again, I wonder if you don't want to lead until the final stages of this race. Maybe not fuel related, although for Trepignet with 7.2 seconds, I would be slightly concerned given that he's a full second shorter in pit stop time than everyone else in the field. But maybe just wants to try and time the slingshot till the final lap. Back with the likes of Juan Malagon, the Juncos Hollinger esports machine, and then the local livery flavor of Miguel Angel Fonseca. It's inside of the top 15 where a couple of drivers have been able to pick their way on forward. Arnaud Genet hoping not to drop too far back.
He's got some heavy hitters behind him, though. Remember, Malagon was a championship contender last season as Modoff and Theriault are having an argument over the sausage curbs. That's going to lose both of them touch with the race leaders, and they're still going at it. They're still side by side.
And that's their chances of the victory surely gone. Coming to now 4 minutes left to run. They are out of the draft as well of Olivier and Trepignet. It means that Trepignet, who's maybe a 10th closer out of the final corner, can use not just the draft of the race leader, but the lap traffic as well to get a better run into the opening corner.
That was some savvy driving there with his former teammate Marc-Andre Desjardins just stealing a little bit of extra draft. This is going to be a real test into turn 1, though. Olivier does defend to the inside, but he does leave a door open. Is that going to be a historic tale on the final lap if the door's open? Speaking of the door being open, Modoff leaves it open for Theriault, tries to go for a switchback. Can't get it done just yet. Theriault stays on the podium, but as these guys continue to fight, they're basically leaving their chances of a win with Trepignet and Olivier coming together. If they don't, it's going to be a battle for third.
I don't think Carl Modoff looks very impressed right now.
I mean, I feel like that's just been his face generally tonight.
Resting race face, is that what we're calling it?
I mean, we've all got it.
I mean, we literally do. That's why I'm coining that term. I hope no one else has actually ever said that. I'm actually coining something for the first time because, again, it will be a first. Something original.
We can get t-shirts.
Armor.gg/collections/RaceSpot. There you go.
Yeah.
10% off, use the code RaceSpot, if I remember correctly. Malagon Genet continue to fight for 13th and 14th position. Could have come to 2 laps to go this time by, though, and Trepignet almost got to the inside of Olivier, and traffic will play another little bit of a part as well. If Trepignet doesn't have the straight line speed, what can he do to grab the victory? Surely he's figuring that out right now.
He's got to find a different place to go for a move. Try and get Dominic offline somewhere. Try and go for a surprise dive somewhere, because the straight lines have not been working for him. Both drivers are going to get a little bit of draft from Nick McLaughlin up there. He'll pull out of the way once they get to turn 1, but this is really helping Dominic Olivier to have the draft of that Ferrari, helping him down the front straight. That's going to let him hang on for the moment, but Vincent Trepignet is all over the back of him, waiting for any moment to pounce. And there go the teammates going at it into turn 1.
You've got Michael Diaz and Emmanuel Santos that will descend down out of turn, Boris Avando and Jeremy Gonzalez that will head down through turn number 1. Getting myself confused on the timing screen. Beckham just see who's tucked up behind them. And just trying to find a little bit of a hole to slot on through, but the teammates are going to be able to potentially work together, but if they manage to barge doors with one another, the fiercely forward car could slip on through. Got to be careful here.
Yeah, they are not racing like teammates right now. They are racing like 2 independent drivers trying to fight for the last spot in the top 5. But look at Trepignet running a little bit to the inside of Olivier through that long right-hander. Just trying to get into clean air. They're side-by-side deeper in the field with Puctel and one of the Ferraris. I believe that's Ted Lowendick trying to hold him off. There's battles all throughout the field. Fuji is proven to be a very strong track for these GT3 sprint drivers.
And just keep an eye out on the fact that Carl Modoff is starting to close once again in that fight for third. We are going to come to take the final lap of the race, and Vincent Trepigny has had no answer for the top speed of Dominic Olivier. He's got no help from the draft either. White flag in hand, 1 lap to go. Olivier still in control.
He's going to have to send it to the inside here. Dominic Olivier hasn't really been defending the inside very aggressively. He's just been going for a half-hearted defense to the inside. Vincent Trepigny could take advantage of that if he wants to, and he is. The door's open. Olivier does close it, does the Pruitt fade into the braking zone and shuts the door. Trepigny goes for the switchback, gets the rear bumper of Dominic Olivier, though.
That's the racecraft, though, of Olivier to just park it on the apex. Know that for Trepigny, the wisest move was going to be the switchback and to prevent it from happening, and now there's only a couple more places to make a pass, but Trepigny's shown that he's willing to show the nose in the final sector. If he can get close in this middle sector, the opportunity might present itself.
And I'm wondering if Trepigny's thinking that Olivier moved under braking there. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to move in the braking zone, but I think that was a little bit of a Pruitt fade from Dominic Olivier. It was a consistent motion. Trepigny's not going to be too happy right now, though, and he is thinking, where can I make this move in the final couple of corners? Am I going to have to send it through the final corner?
I don't think he's close
He's
enough.
on the grass.
He's pushing, but Porsche on Porsche battle. Yes, they will have slightly different setups, but maybe not enough top-end grunt to allow Vincent Trepigny to really challenge the Precision Racing Esports number 9 down that mighty long main straightaway. He will give it his goal. One final attempt through the final corner, but it will not pay off. Vincent Trepigny just short once again, but for Dominic Olivier, it is a second Precision Racing League GT3 sprint victory. It comes after a monumental fight with Vincent Trepigny on this Fuji International Raceway, flashing the lights, half a second splitting them. Strategy played its part once against Joey, but you said it best. Fuji and GT3 Sprint, a match made in heaven.
And this is just, it's an incredible field in the PRL in this GT3 Sprint Series. I mentioned a couple seasons ago that we had the best grid we've ever had, and somehow it's gotten even better. With the titans of PRL GT3 from the past, Olivier coming back for a full season, Simon Theriault moving up from the GT4 Series. You've got talent all the way down through the field. Ted Lowendick bringing it home in the top 20 in that Ferrari. GT3 fixed champion Michael Tarafino bringing it home in 22nd ahead of Kwok Din. And there's light flashing all throughout the field as well. Everybody's got their buttons back.
This is Keaton Marchese in a Rexy-inspired little number that works his way to the line. And the Vaporworks entry. That's 29th position, 16 positions gained. Our biggest mover on the day. Not the only run to the line that is relatively close, though. Alexandra Breton brings a seemingly beaten up Porsche on its right front corner to the line in front of Joshua Spears. And then we'll just wait for Noah Anderson before we can grab a look at the race results and then make our way into some post-race coverage and hopefully have a bit of a chat with Olivier Trepigny as well as Theriault and get a sense for how they felt the race ended up playing out. So close on strategy. Even closer, it seemed, out on the track, but Dominic Olivier does grab his second PRL victory and his second PRL GT3 Sprint victory. It's Vincent Trepigny and Simon Theriault that make it 2 of the Advanced Motorsports cars on the podium, though Karl Modoff able to climb his way up to 4th, not able to make the move in the closing laps. Jeremy Gonzalez started in 2nd, dropped back to 5th, but finished in lockstep with his Precision Racing Esports teammate Boris Ovando, while Beckham Jasir just missed out on the drag race to the line, was 900ths behind Ovando. Michael Diaz in 8th, Emmanuel Santos 9th, and then Abner Acosta, defending champion, who after qualifying decently, did seem to struggle a little bit more in long run speed. Sean Dickinson, Martin Crisps, then Juan Malagon, Arnaud Genet, and Alessandro Tocchio in 15th spot. Miguel Fonseca, Scott Kimbrough, Ryan Pucktel, Ted Lowendick, and then Ethan Bass complete your top 20. And as we continue to work through the names, David Mendoza, Michael Tarafino, Kwok Min, Justin Delano, Philip Magnon, Patrick Fogel, Matt Scherf, Artie Mercedes, Keaton Marchese, and then Nicholas Johnson. All staying on the lead lap, most importantly, as did Will Kofi, Corey Hoken, Jay Steffi, Kevin Simpson, Alexander Breton, Joshua Spears, and then Noah Anderson. 1 lap down for the likes of Nico Sani Darkis in the Vaporworks Simsport 886/7, depending on whether you look at the team name or the car number. Nick McLaughlin, and then for Marc-Andre Deschardin, 41st went to Scott Reister, at least in front of Ryan O'Connor, Gonzalo Cortez, Fernando Yaquez, and then Fares Nasser. round out the 45 cars, some of them unfortunately not making it to the end of the race. And so that leads us, well, into post-race coverage, but not into post-race interviews as we stand by to get a couple of the drivers ready to chat with us. Joey, what an electric end to that race.
What an end indeed, and I really want to ask Vincent Trepanier about that last lap battle. I want to ask Dominic Olivier too. We normally hear from both of those guys, so hopefully we can shame them into showing up into these interviews. And right as I say that, Dominic Olivier is here indeed. We do have our race winner, Dominic Olivier. Vincent Trepanier was giving you the ultimate pressure at the end there. How'd you hold him off?
Oh man, that was so tough. I'm just buzzing. Adrenaline is pretty high right now. I knew Vincent would have quite an interesting strategy, being behind his teammate, saving fuel. Somehow I, kept it out because all week in the VRS runs I kept pitting earlier and getting the advantage, and I decided this is the first time I've been in the lead. Decided to hold out and somehow still managed to come out ahead of them. So I was pretty happy about that. But Vincent definitely put up a serious fight, so I had to get cheeky with him.
A little bit cheeky. So that's your second win in the PRL now. We know you've had some part-time seasons in the past. Are we going to see you competing for the title for the full season this year?
Yeah, man. This season I'm definitely pumped and motivated. The other seasons definitely had too much going on, couldn't take it seriously. But this season I'm all about it. Unfortunately, Watkins went really, really bad for me. I'm still gutted and puzzled as to what happened. But I'll start my championship from today and hopefully try and put up a fight against these guys. These guys are really good. It's a stacked field this season, and I'm pretty excited.
Certainly is. Congrats, Dom, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Dominic Olivier, race winner, but we do have our second place finisher. Mr. Vincent Trepanier is here with us as well. Vincent, it was an incredible race with you and Dom at the end there. You tried to send the dive into turn 1. How did you think about his defense into turn 1?
It was a little bit aggressive for the defense because he parked the car at the apex. But look, you can do it in the race. So it was a little bit tricky from Dominic, but I understand this move. So I will take the podium, the P2. I will take it. I'm happy with it.
We were happy seeing the battle as well, and you had some incredible fuel saving there. I think you were 1 second shorter in the box than anybody else. Had you been practicing that fuel saving over the course of the week?
Seriously, a little bit. Maybe I save fuel 1 lit in the official during the last week, but today I save fuel 2 liters. Sorry, I'm on the good English. It's 2 liters, but maybe 3. So I try for 2, but yeah.
Well, Vincent, we're happy to have you back in the series. That was a great battle, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for some more.
Thank you. Can I thank somebody?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. I will thank all my teammates from Advanced Motorsport, Advanced Sim Racing, and thank you for thank you to my teammate Simon Theriault. He pushed me a lot during the race, so thank you, and thank you for RaceSpot for the broadcast, the awesome broadcast. The quality of the broadcast is very, very nice, guys. And thanks to the PRL for the organization.
Always a pleasure. Vincent Trepanier coming home P2, Arjuna, and you got the perfect French-Canadian pronunciation from him. Yeah, Simon Theriault.
I mean, we shouldn't have doubted ourselves, should we? Let's quick look at the schedule before we wrap things up, because, again, week off on the horizon, and so it means that we can rest up next Tuesday. I'm not sure what I'm going to do without your puns, Joey. It's going to feel quite empty.
I don't know. Maybe you should go see Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, fill that gap.
After that, though, of course, we head over to Aragon, brand new track, and we mentioned it earlier. Plenty of drivers have experience with Watkins Glen. Most drivers, some drivers, have experience with Fuji. No drivers will have prior experience of Motorland Aragon.
Yeah, they'll probably have a couple laps, because I know a lot of drivers get very excited, as I do, when iRacing drops these new tracks, but it's going to be a very, very interesting learning experience. It could maybe shake up the field a little bit. We could see some guys who aren't always competitive rising up a little bit, and we could see some of the old favorites. They may be Aragon.
I don't even know what to do with that one. After that, VIR, Spa, Zolder, Road Atlanta, Barcelona, Circuit de la Sarthe, and then a trip over to Phillip Island to close the book on 2023 Season 3. And one thing that, Joey, I'm kind of spitballing when I throw this out there. Last season, you didn't have to win to be at the front of the championship. I don't know if that's going to be the case here today or this season.
Well, I think it's basically guaranteed that you're going to see the guys who are fighting for the championship win multiple races. You're going to see Vincent Trepanier win a race this season. You're going to see Karl Modoff win a race this season. We've already seen Ovando and Olivier win races this season. It's possible that we could have a 10-winner season. We could have a different winner in every round. That's how good this field is.
Oh boy, you're really trying to set the expectations up high, aren't you? But don't forget...
I don't know if it's ever happened.
History making, that's what we need. We'll be off for a week, but we'll be back rejuvenated after the 4th of July as we make our way to the newest track available on iRacing. Another week, another crazy weekend, a week of racing as well. And the GT3 Sprint Series only elevated the excitement that the GT3 fixed drivers brought to us once again. On behalf of the team at RaceSpotTV, for Joey Tebben alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you again for your company on a Tuesday evening. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. For now, so long and goodbye.